Hello everyone, welcome back to Electronic Journeys. It is I, your host, Jeffrey Hoke. I hope you're all doing well. Today on the show, we're going to be looking at Tomb Raider, released in 1996 by Eidos Interactive, mere months after their acquisition of the game's developer, Core Design. While versions of the game were developed simultaneously for the Saturn and DOS, and it even released on the Saturn 3 weeks before it debuted anywhere else, it was ultimately on the PlayStation where Lara Croft, Tomb Raider's iconic protagonist, enjoyed the bulk of her success. Hence the name of this episode, and unhence the footage you are seeing right now of this Saturn copy from my personal collection. Originally, the idea for this episode was that I was going to record myself playing through the Saturn version of the game for the first time, to see if it made the experience feel new and fresh, but the nostalgia cravings got the better of me and I reverted to the PlayStation version after a mere 2 stages. You see, Tomb Raider is a game I've cleared well over a dozen times, and it is also a game that I deeply, deeply love. So, a new form for this episode took place in mind, a kind of 3-in-1 personal analysis of the game as I see it after playing it so much over the years. Layer 1 of the video will be a personal memoir. After all, Tomb Raider was the video game that got my family to abandon the fantastical notion that we could somehow skirt by forever without a PS1 memory card. I blame Twisted Metal 2 for tricking us into thinking more games would support password saves. Layer 2 will be a trap-by-trap, obstacle-by-obstacle breakdown and analysis of the critical path through the game. And Layer 3, a macro extension of Layer 2, an official Electronic Journeys tier list of Tomb Raider's 15 levels. The first tier list of probably not that many to come, honestly. Excited? No? Then leave! Still here? Then let's get started. The first thing I'm going to say outright is that despite playing Tomb Raider 100 times, I can still barely follow its story. My brain glazes over during all the cutscenes. I've tried to make myself care about it so many times, and a part of me I can't control just refuses. It's an Atlantis is real type story, I do know that, which might be a spoiler. Is that a spoiler? I honestly don't remember. What I mean to say is that I'm not going to be covering the story of the game very deeply, so I hope you're not here for that. To start us off, all you need to know is some shady lady named Natla hires Lara to go to Peru and locate a mysterious artifact called the Scion, which the characters in the game refer to as the Scion, which I'm gonna chalk up to mispronunciations on behalf of the voice actors because that's the funniest explanation. Man, this title screen is such an instant hit of weapons-grade nostalgia. The suspense created by the short but sticky loading time, the satisfying speed of the progress bar, the brief dimming effect that occurs just after for no discernible reason, but sustains your visual interest. And then, the menu options present themselves in a gloriously 3D radial wheel accompanied by the greatest whoosh sound effect in video game history, perking your ears up in anticipation of aural glory, which is immediately rewarded with the most gorgeous video game oboe melody of all time. I also enjoy how the controller icon lines up with Lara's eye, but you are not permitted to revel in the full glory of Tomb Raider's main theme here, however. Waiting for really not much time at all sends you into the demo mode, interrupting its majesty. To hear the whole thing, we must raid a tomb. Off we go. We're already in Peru. One thing that always strikes me is how much better Lara's hands look here than the dude in the opening cutscene. The discrepancy stuck out to me even as an undiscerning child. Whoops, our unnamed guide gets immediately eaten by wolves and we're alone in level 1, caves. I love how you can see wolf tracks on the ground as soon as the level begins. A nice little immersive touch of environmental design to start us off with. I suppose I should very briefly go over Lara's moveset so y'all know what we're working with. It's surprisingly sparse for how much mileage the designers get out of it. One key thing to understand about Tomb Raider is that its level designs are entirely grid-based, which is reflected in Lara's controls. Tapping up on the D-pad makes her run forward roughly 1 square, tapping down makes her hop back roughly 1 square, left and right, they turn. Yes, tank controls, they work just fine, be quiet. The jump button allows Lara to leap forward, somersault side to side, or backflip. These also move Lara a specific number of squares, but I've never bothered to count. The point is, Lara jumps exactly the same distance every time you input one of these moves. She is mathematically predictable with minimal in-air control. Mario 64, this ain't. That needs to be clear. There is also a roll button, which moves Lara forward roughly 1 square and simultaneously performs a 180-degree turn. This comes in handy a lot more often than you might think. The top shoulder button allows Lara to perform tiny little baby sidesteps for when you're trying to align her properly to a switch or ledge. R1 reduces her forward jog into a slow walk, which guarantees she will not slip off the edge of a platform, one of the most important concepts in the game lest you frequently tumble to your doom. And L1 locks her feet entirely, switching the D-pad over to control the direction she is looking instead of her feet. Finally, we have a dedicated draw holster weapon button and a context-sensitive action button. The two most important functions of the latter is to grip platform ledges and to fire your weapon should it be drawn. Alright, that should do it for now. Let's get rating. The first trap in the game are some darts that do so little damage they can hardly even be considered a trap. But what they do is immediately communicate that this is a hostile and dangerous place that we need to be on the lookout in. Around the corner is the first of, I believe, only 2 times in the entire game that the designers automatically trigger Lara's look mode for you, and they do so to hint that there's a path beyond some rocks to the left. This is a not-so-subtle tip that if you don't pay close attention to your surroundings in this game, you are going to get lost and you are going to get confused. This is not a corridor shooter. This is not a GPS-assisted icons on a minimap game. Heightened senses of perception and curiosity are necessary to navigate your way through these levels, which is one of the primary ingredients in Tomb Raider's secret sauce of greatness. Let's not go up there quite yet though, because continuing straight ahead introduces us to the concept of sloped surfaces that we can jump off of if we time it right. Introducing these slopes in a non-lethal way like this is a rare mercy on behalf of Tomb Raider's designers. They are not always so polite with their mechanical introductions in future levels. The jump brings us to our first secret of the game, as indicated by this lovely little chime, and it's a healing item. This is one of the only secrets I'm going to show you, by the way. This is not a guide. I just wanted to, 1, let you know that secrets are a thing in Tomb Raider, and 2, mention that I think it's really smart game design to hide the first secret in the opposite direction of where the game clearly indicates you should go. It communicates early and clearly that exploring off the beaten path will be rewarded, and indeed, it often is. In fact, if you do even a halfway decent job exploring, you will never want for recovery items or ammunition. More so, the default pistols never run out of bullets, so this is not really a resource management survival type of game. By the way, check out this roll into ledge grab move. That's some pro stuff, you learned it here. Back and up the rocks is our first enemy type, bats. They only take a shot or two, and Lara auto-aims with perfect precision, so down they go. One thing I may as well note now is that nearly every enemy in Tomb Raider follows the same basic AI pattern. Swarm Lara immediately, then knock her around as frantically and chaotically as they possibly can. Past the bats are some beautifully lit ruins from what I believe is supposed to be a skylight, then an easily navigable room with a switch at the end of it we can operate by an intuitive tap of the action button. A mysterious musical sting and climb out of a hole later, we're in the next major area. I love this area. I love this area because I love bridges. Actually, I might love bridges because 8-year-old me loved this area. Getting through this part is kind of like a trial to make sure you have the basic movement controls down adequately. Even if you do fall, it's just a short distance to the ground below. It's not perfectly safe down there, however, as a couple of our second enemy type, wolves, happen to be prowling around. I always just take them out from up here where it's safe. After the bridges is our first jump of the game. The stakes are a bit higher on this potential fall because a nasty-sounding bear, enemy type 3, resides below. There is absolutely no reason to kill it, and it's kinda a pain in the butt to do so because he keeps running under you where you can't hit him, but I always do. I can't help myself, man, it's a tradition. The jump itself is easy. With a running start, you don't even need to put your guns away. Proceeding down a large staircase and through a vine-covered portal, some wonderfully exciting adventure music suddenly comes in and another pack of wolves come out of nowhere leaping at our throat. The way music is handled in Tomb Raider is as striking as it is clumsy. Basically, there is no BGM whatsoever until you hit a trigger of some sort, in which case a discrete music file plays through exactly 1 time and then it's back to silence. Its awkwardly hard-coded nature is prone to all sorts of mishaps and misalignments, like here, when I destroy the wolves in 10 seconds and it keeps playing anyway, and yet, I love it. Through the clumsiness of its implementation, a deliberateness is communicated that gives the game a directorial artfulness that is highly effective. You can feel with absolute clarity that the designers chose each specific music file to use, when to trigger them, and what effect they were intending for them to have, even if they failed to perfectly match up to your own actions. It helps that Nathan McCree's composition are iconic, easily some of the most memorable in all of Western-designed PlayStation releases. Okay, where were we? Wolves dead, moving on. Next is our first timed switch in the game. Its effect communicated with a dramatic zoom out to the door we are opening. We've already arrived at another thing I love about Tomb Raider. I find it so cool that you still have full control over Laura during these dramatic camera shots like you see me doing here. Even when the camera cuts away completely, such as to a different room. It makes the action feel dynamic and real, because control is never taken away from you. You can totally run off a ledge and die while the camera is busy showing you like a gate opening though, so be careful how you wield this power. Also, something not mentioned enough in games discourse is how perspective-agnostic movement systems, such as tank controls, allow for camera trickery like this with no disruption to the reliability of their inputs. What's extra impressive is that Tomb Raider demonstrated the effectiveness of this technique in full 3D a mere 7 months after the original Biohazard dropped. Not bad. The original Alone in the Dark deserves credit too, of course, but its controls do not hold up nearly as well. Moving on, you wouldn't notice this was a time-sensitive door because I breezed right through it, and beyond lies a large staircase. How delicious are these footstep sound effects, by the way? I wonder how they made them. As we round the corner, we get a lovely exploring some ancient ruins music number and some more hardly a nuisance darts. Then we're introduced to our next trap element, collapsing floor tiles. Luckily, these lead just a short ways down, so we're A-okay. The room we fall into is the first with a somewhat hidden switch that we have to look around for. But as we head toward a promising-looking passageway, we're hit with more adventuring music and another wolf. I love how the composition used here is a more intense version of the composition used in the previous wolf encounter. It provides this one-off combat sequence a bit more narrative heft, like it's actually a continuation of the same general scene. The wolf was, of course, defending the lever we need to open the next door. So we throw it, drop down into the main hallway, and that's the end of level 1, Caves. One thing I recently realized, and I have not seen mentioned anywhere, is how obvious of an influence Doom was on these end-of-level stat sheets. And by influence, I mean Tomb Raider directly copied them. Kills, items, secrets, time. It's the exact same 4 stats, just listed as counts instead of percentages. I've always wondered why a game with such de-emphasized combat like Tomb Raider would bother tracking your kills, and I think I found the answer. Because Doom did it. I can definitely see how a game like Doom, with its large non-linear maps and myriad key hunting expeditions, could have been a much larger influence on Tomb Raider than it would initially seem. I bet Core Design were huge fans. Alright, so before we move on, we gotta plop Caves onto our empty tier list. Remember, we're doing a tier list. Well, it's not a particularly exciting stage, to be honest, especially on repeated playthroughs, but it does a brilliant job of introducing the game's design concepts and unique mechanical cadence, so I think a B is fair. Stage 2 starts exactly where Stage 1 left off, at the entrance to the City of Vilcabamba. That's the name of the level. Immediately, we are swarmed by wolves. What a welcome. The first area of Stage 2 is significantly larger and requires more exploration to figure out how to proceed than the first. Taking the perimeter around reveals a locked door, some bats, and more wolves. The center area contains an angry bear and the very first swimming section of the game, which is actually entirely optional and only leads to some secrets, but we're going to talk about it for a bit anyway. Why? Because swimming in Tomb Raider is surprisingly intuitive and polished. To the point of where I think people not used to tank controls, going back and playing this for the first time, would actually find the swimming portions of the game easier to handle than the main controls. The jump button propels you forward, and the D-pad orients you. It's as simple as that. I'd even go as far as to say that the swimming controls in Tomb Raider are proof that the game's controls in general are 100% deliberate and not misguided artifacts of their time, suffering from the limitations of early, pre-analog 3D, on PlayStation anyway. I don't like when people call Tomb Raider's controls dated, because to me that implies a level of mistakenness or naivety on behalf of the game's designers that I don't think is true. Tomb Raider's controls are dated only insofar that modern designers don't make games like this anymore, that they seem to disagree with many of the fundamental principles that guided Tomb Raider's design, specifically how it demands slow, deliberate, and methodical inputs on behalf of the player. When people say dated, I hear better left in the past, and that's something I strongly disagree with. I'm not even defending tank controls specifically when I say this, but controls in general that demand decision-making and precision over reflexes. Every single button press in Tomb Raider is a considered event. There is no comfort of a UX-engineered faux flow state that manufactures in you a phony sense of command, and that is awesome. You cannot properly capture the sense of place of long untouched ancient ruins filled with death traps through frictionless design and user safeguards. Game mechanics need to express their theme, just as much, if not more so, than their aesthetics. That's proper game design, y'all, at least at my school. Enroll today! In short, what I'm trying to say is that I think Tomb Raider's controls hold up just fine if you take a mere 10 to 15 minutes getting the hang of them. And I do not feel this way about all the PlayStation games I loved as a child. It is not just nostalgia talking. Laura does turn a bit slow, I admit, and the inertia of it takes a little getting used to, but that's all I'm gonna give you. Anyway, explore the city thoroughly enough, and eventually you find a door with a lever next to it, which is our path forward. Inside is what I believe is supposed to be a fire pit, but the camera angle makes it look like a potential trap. Well, I always look down to be sure, it's just muscle memory at this point. Up the stairs and across a short gap is a spooky room filled with skulls, collapsing tiles, and a beautiful piece of choral music. On the ground is our first movable block that can be pushed forward to create a passage into another room. Adorably, one of the strongest memories I have of this game is my family calling these pushy-pulley blocks, which in my headcanon is their official name. A couple very important key items are stowed away back here, so we grab them, then use our pushy-pulley block to climb up and back to the original hub area. One of the keys opens a nearby door and we proceed through some more nuisance darts and another pack of wolves. Wolves are old hat by now, so they get no exciting musical accompaniment as they did in Stage 1. Beyond is a building with 3 entrances, but only the left is open to us, so that's where we go. This section of the game is another trial of sorts to make sure you have the jumping controls at least mostly down. Graciously, the game gives you some water to fall into if you don't. Even more graciously, we get our first in-game listen to the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Tomb Raider theme. It always bums me out that pulling this lever interrupts it for some dumb chiming noise just because we opened a stupid door. Dropping down, we encounter a new item, shotgun shells. Another fun memory of playing this game as a family is debating what the heck these things were when we first found them due to our crappy CRT making them hard to make out. One theory was that they were the blowtorches we end up using in a later cutscene, which makes absolutely no sense. I'm not sure why we were so confused by them when it says right in your items menu that they're shotgun shells. Man, we were stupid kids. Through the right entrance is a slightly more challenging platform sequence, but one still cushioned by a life-saving water basin should you fall. These design graces evaporate pretty quickly in the levels to come, so enjoy them while they last. This lever opens up the central entrance, and we drop carefully down again. As a kid, I remember learning the hard way to take your time and back off ledges if you're not sure of the height. I had to listen to many a screaming, falling Lara due to my ignorance. A formative experience that. Through the central entrance is our first encounter with one of the more intimidating traps of the game, pendulum blades. Not hard at all to avoid once you get the timing down, but the sound effect of the blades swinging back and forth is pretty chilling. Past them is our first fake-out lever. By that I mean a lever which does not do what you're expecting it to. Instead of opening the door in front of us, it drops us harmlessly into some more water. That's not so bad, but it's a hint at evils to come. Emerging into another ancient bear den, we must explore once more to find a path forward. A staircase tucked away in one corner leads to a lever, but strangely, it stops the pendulums that we've already been through. Exploring some more, we discover a water passage to a side area leading to another staircase and another lever. This one opens the path forward, but there's still something missing. The other key item we got, way back when. I presume the design reason behind the first lever stopping the pendulums was to make backtracking easier should you have missed this item on your first go-around, but I didn't because I've played Tomb Raider like a million times, so that's the end of Stage 2. Okay, so where does the city of Vilcabamba land on our tier list? You know, it's still simple, not as iconic as many of the levels to come, but it does intelligently expand on the concepts laid out in Stage 1. More exploration, more platforming, more traps, it introduces swimming. Plus, this level always contained some sort of unexplainable magic to me as a child, and I think it's where Tomb Raider first reveals to the player how special of an experience it's going to be. So, It's gotta be A tier for me. Next up is Lost Valley, which is probably the most infamous level in the game, and the entire series for that matter. Lost Valley is the first level in the game with a fully open structure. As in, instead of progressing through a series of rooms, it lays out a problem for you and you go about exploring to solve it. It starts you off on the bank of a raging river. Exploring in one direction eventually brings you to a contraption of some sort that is missing a few gears. So, there's our mission. Find the missing gears. A nearby skeleton helpfully has left us a somehow still functioning shotgun, a marked improvement in firepower over the starter pistols. Hopping into the river and allowing the current to sweep us away takes us to the other end of the level and eventually tosses us down a waterfall. You can actually die here if you go over the ledge at a bad angle, which is always a bummer. One neat touch here is that you can't tread water near the waterfall as the force of it pushes you down under the surface. Physics! Climbing out of the water basin, we find some more wolves to take down and a path to follow, but eventually we come to a dead end. This is likely the first place in the game where kiddies, like us, got truly stuck back in 1996. There is no obvious path forward, and it seems like there's nowhere to go. This is where you must demonstrate that you've learned the lesson the game tried to teach you back in level 1, when Laura auto-looked up over those rocks off the side of the path to indicate how to progress. The lesson being, of course, that you gotta be curious in this game and investigate all possibilities. That said, you see this rock wall? Looks just like solid rock, right? But wait a minute, there's a ledge you can climb up, and another, and another, and before you know it, you're in a humongous new area you had no idea was even there. Magical. Upon entering this lush jungle of sorts, something somewhat odd and frightening occurs. A small dinosaur, a raptor it seems, attacks you. Wow, that was unexpected. Warily progress just a bit further, and you find yourself in one of the most iconic encounters in all of 90s gaming. The T-Rex. The discerning player would have noticed those massive footprints leading up to it. 8-year-old me was anything but. This thing was pure trauma to us back then, sending us backflipping and running into walls in a mad panic before getting stomped or eaten to death. Now watch as I ruin your memory of it, for my age anyway, by showing how laughably easy it is. Open the menu, pull out the shotguns, 4 shots, switch back to the pistols, finish him off, a few more shots. He barely took a single step toward me. All right, with the dinos down, let's commence our gear search. To the left of some sort of ancient building, up some rocks and through a corridor, is a destroyed bridge hanging precariously over the area we were just exploring. This is the first gap in the game that necessitates Lara's full possible jumping distance. I love that it gets this cinematic side angle to make it feel epic. The process of jumping maximum distance in Tomb Raider is as follows. Walk all the way up to a ledge, using the walk move so you don't slip over the side to your doom, tap back to set your run up, begin running forward, then hold down square. The order is important or you will jump early and probably to your death like a moron. Then, once airborne, hold down the action button to grab the ledge you are aiming for. Oh look, I'm right over the T-Rex's dead head. Finally, tap up to pull yourself up. If you let go of the action button at any point while you are hanging, Lara lets go as well. Your thumb is her hands. This is important, very important. You know, it's so important, I think it's time for a Dev Pro tip. This one named itself. It's called Let Go of the Controller, Let Go of the Ledge. All right. Let go of the controller, let go of the ledge. What do I mean by that? Well, this is a very simple one, especially compared to some of the more theory-heavy Dev Pro tips on previous episodes. Yeah, just that. You know, one thing we talk about a lot, I talk about a lot here on Electronic Journeys, is the importance for mechanics to be expressive of a game's theme. And I feel like Tomb Raider is one of the only platforming games I have ever played that mechanics capture the tension of dangling off of the ledge of a cliff. You know, as you're holding down that action button, if you let go, if your thumb comes off of that action button, Laura lets go of that ledge, which I think is very, very important. Compare that with, say, the Uncharted games, where, you know, you're hopping around Nathan Drake, you're climbing up the sides of cliffs, and then you get to the side of a cliff, you can literally just take that controller, put it down, leave the game in perpetuity forever, and Nathan Drake will just chill, hanging off of the side of the cliff forever, no problem. And that is just inexcusable game design. That is a humongous failure of game design. There's no defense for it. It reduces the platforming sequences that should be just as tense, just as challenging, just as interesting as the combat sequences into nothing, just boring filler because you can't fail. All you do is push the stick where you want to go, and Nathan Drake, or, I don't want to just single out Uncharted, it's just the one that most immediately came to mind. I don't even dislike the Uncharted games, I think it's the most obvious point of comparison in this particular case. And it's just, why? Why did they do that? It makes no sense. It's not like he doesn't automatically destroy all of the enemies in the third-person shooter sequences, so why is the platforming completely autopilot? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. It's a failure of game design. I don't know how else to put it. So, to recap, let go of the controller, let go of the ledge. If you are making a game that is supposed to be expressive of rock climbing, platforming, tense, making your way through these dangerous areas, you should capture that mechanically. And I think Tomb Raider is a fantastic example of how to do that, where they map Lara's grip directly to you holding down that action button. And she can hold there. She can hold out as long as you can hold out. There's no meter. I know some games, Breath of the Wild has or Shadow of the Colossus has, the meter that slowly follows. That's cool too. I like that too. But I like the simplicity of Tomb Raiders as well, where as long as you can hold it, she can hold it, which there's a simplicity to that I think is very expressive. And I think, in general, more thought around making the player, the mechanics that they're taking and interacting with on that controller, the inputs that they're doing on that controller, should match the mechanics that are reflected by the game that they're playing. And that's just what I wanted to point out here on this Dev Pro tip. On the other side of the bridge is our first gear. That's one. The second gear is inside the building we saw earlier. Just gotta swim down and get it. Easy. The third is a little trickier, as the passage it's in is a bit more hidden. One way to find it is by swimming through this little underwater cave. Then you gotta climb up scary high to nab it. Careful on the way down. That's all three gears, so let's teleport via the magic of editing back to the device we need them for. Okay, so what did that do? Looking back down over the river, you can see that it redirected the water down this side area that was dry before. But why? Following the river to its new destination just leads to a secret, so that's not important. What is important is that there's no waterfall anymore. Check out this pro swan dive move. Careful though, land on lower solid ground with that one, and it's a broken neck for Lara. Now, being that there's no waterfall, there's no water pressure forcing us down below it anymore. So, what's behind where the waterfall was? The end of the level. Lost Valley is great. The best level yet, for sure. The bridge jump is one of my favorite jumps in the game. It looks and feels amazing when you do it. You're also introduced here to increasingly non-linear and exploration-focused design, and shown that the game has some crazy surprises up its sleeve via the T-Rex. I don't think we're quite at the S tier yet. Its design is just a bit too simple, but Lost Valley is definitely high A tier, above City of Vilcabamba. Nice. We've made it to our first tomb, the Tomb of Qualopec. Let's rate it. The vibe in here is different. It's very red. Looking around, there's only one discernible path forward, a ramp straight ahead. But watch out. You're about to see one of the main reasons everyone always compares Tomb Raider to Indiana Jones. That's right, boulders. This is where the roll move is most needed, because slowly swiveling Lara's lackadaisical butt away from these terrors is a recipe for death. It's cool how you can go back up the ramp after dodging the boulder to see this dope cutaway to the artifact we're pursuing. It's so close. The real path forward is via a cleverly disguised lever to the side of where we came in. It opens a path to a fork that splits three ways, each emblazoned with one of the mysterious icons we've been seeing throughout the game. By the way, these glitchy blue diamonds I've been ignoring this whole commentary, those are save points. You can only use each one a single time, so much like Biohazard before it, you really want to make some significant progress in a level before resorting to a save in Tomb Raider. Your first time through, deciding the right time to use these can be agonizing, as many of the levels are quite open-ended, but at this point in my Tomb Raider career, I hardly bother saving until the significantly more challenging later levels. Besides, it makes these simpler early ones more exciting. Anyways, each of these three paths leads us to a challenge we must overcome to open the three gates leading to the Scion. I'm not calling it the Scion, sorry, it just makes me feel like an idiot. As always, we'll take the left path first. This is our first real platforming puzzle in the game, and also our first encounter with deadly instant death spike traps. You're actually not supposed to pull that first lever like I just did, but I always do because I'm a creature of habit. Drop down, wrap around the staircase, jump up into the hidden alcove, follow the path back down to where we started and undo my mistake by unpulling the lever, which moves the platform back to where we needed it to be in the first place, then go jump into a second hidden alcove. This lever moves the other platform into position, then we pull the first lever a third time, or the first time if you're smart, and now we have both platforms in position to jump across the room where we need to go. This jump over the spikes is our first taste of the evil brilliance of Tomb Raider's level designers. It's an awkward angle, so we kinda have to curve in the air over the spikes to make it safely. I make it look easy here, but I guarantee you will be sweating the first time you do this. That's one gate open. The center path is next. A fake lever sneakily lures us over a collapsible tile where we fall into a pack of wolves. We move a block, hop around a bit, and that's gate 2. That was easy. Finally, the right path. This trap is simple but highly effective. Running over to the lever makes the floor collapse behind us, meaning we have to hop over some spikes on the way back, but the roof is so low that seems impossible to do. I always feel like I'm going to do something wrong and die here, when in reality I'm pretty sure that a normal jump or a running jump both work. It's really just your perception that makes the situation seem more dangerous than it is. One of the Tomb Raider team's favorite tricks as they pull it time and time again. Now that all 3 gates are open, we can backtrack to the starting room and across it to the now opened pathway, which leads us right where we want to be. Nice. Wait, what are these creepy mummy things, and is that one looking at me? His head is definitely moving. Drawing your guns aims at it like an enemy, and if you shoot it enough times, it does go down. This gave me the heebie-jeebies as a kid. It still kinda does. At least Qualopec himself has the courtesy to be a skeleton. Okie doke, time to grab the artifact. But as soon as we do, the roof starts to cave in, signaling it's time to leave. Run past the boulder and back to the waterfall area, and that's the end of the... Wait, is someone shooting at us? It's that strange-handed douche from the beginning. Shoot him! After taking him down, he accidentally reveals that there are additional pieces to the Scion that other treasure hunters have been sent after. Then, Lara kicks him in the face, and that's stage 4. Tomb of Qualopec is a great stage. It's short, tense, memorable, and very trap-heavy, which is a signifier of things to come. I don't think it's quite as breathtaking upon first play as Lost Valley, but I think it's still A tier, right below it. So that's it for Peru. Next, we're treated to a still decent-looking pre-rendered FMV. See that blowtorch? That's what we thought the shotgun shells might have been in our undeveloped kid brains. Speaking of undeveloped kid brains, I did not understand the concept of momentum the first time I saw this elevator wire scene. I kept asking my brother to explain how Lara still moved up after she let go of the wire. Some people miss being a kid, not me, man. We break into Natla's office, discover that the Scion hails from the lost city of Atlantis, and that there are 3 total pieces. Then we're off to Greece to find the second. This part where Lara says, "Pierre, you litterbug," really struck a chord with me as a youth for some reason. She says it with such knowing good-naturedness, I couldn't understand how Pierre could be her enemy and not her friend. I refused to believe it. So, I wasn't just a dumb kid, I was also naive. No, innocent. I'm being too hard on myself. I was innocent. Stage 5 is St. Francis Folly, and at its outset, you are immediately beset by a new enemy type, lions. These things drain your health stupidly fast, so keep your distance or find some higher ground to take them out from. They have 0 hops, so even a small height will do. This first room contains several pillars of varying height, a locked door, and a pushy-pulley block. It also introduces us to the concept of pressure plates, tiles that act like switches when heavy weights are placed on top of them. Pulling the block on top of this one here opens a door, so let's head inside. Ah, crap, gorillas. These aren't as dangerous as lions, but they'll still smack you around good if you let them. Kill them. Lara's not much of a conservationist, eh? I'm honestly not sure what the 2 switches in here do. I always just pull them both and go about my day. Upon exiting, Pierre emerges and starts shooting the crap out of us. He does this a lot, so get used to it. I really like this programming trick the developers do when after taking enough damage, he runs around a corner only to disappear into thin air. Very clever. I wonder how hard that was to pull off. Now we gotta hop up and across some pillars, so we do just that and make our way out of this entrance hall and into a hallway that ends in nothing but a very long and sketchy looking sloped surface. No rest for the wicked, so down we go and thankfully get deposited safely into some... Whoa, wait, was that an alligator? Yes, it was, but they're kind of wusses in this game, so don't sweat it, especially on dry land, and guess what? This lever drains the sewer below us and puts him on just that. Kill it! Draining the water opens up a passage to a staircase, and up the staircase is the best part of the entire game, accompanied with a gorgeous new theme we haven't heard before. The architecture of this room excited kid me in a way I'd never before experienced, like stepping into an impossible M.C. Escher drawing before I even knew who M.C. Escher was. Also, when you look down, all you see is pitch black because the crappy draw distance of the PlayStation 1 couldn't handle the scale of this magnificent room. You can sorta, kinda make it out here, but coupled with a crappy 1996 CRT back then, no way, man. Our tech just couldn't handle greatness of this magnitude. The fear and awe this room struck in our child hearts and the desire to surmount its mystery are the very emotions that finally took us to our parents and tell them, we need a memory card. Jumping around and navigating this vertical maze feels like nothing in any game before or since. It's genuinely thrilling. It's not nostalgia. It is actually thrilling. When I played this level for the nth time to record this footage, I was thrilled. The jumps are dangerous, the paths sweatingly narrow, and the sound of bats being awakened and fluttering above you is nerve-wracking. Even the smallest nuisance could knock you to your destruction at this height. The gist of this area is the following. We need 4 keys to unlock a door at the very bottom. Each key is hidden behind a trap, each trap is locked away behind a door, and there are 4 levers to open those doors hidden somewhere on this labyrinth column. I'm a Bressonian one thing at a time kind of guy, so I always take care of all 4 levers first, the last of which is all the way at the bottom. Next, I climb all the way back to the top and... take on the traps from top to bottom. Each of the traps is themed after some mythological figure, and in true 90s zero research game design fashion, no care whatsoever was put into making the selections make sense. We're in Greece, so you'd obviously think Greek mythology, right? But the 4 figures are Neptune, Atlas, Thor, and Damocles. Atlas and Damocles, okay, fair enough, but Neptune? That's a Roman god. They clearly messed up and meant Poseidon. Thor is even stranger though, that's Norse mythology, and the trap involves a hammer, so they couldn't have meant Zeus. I don't know, it's a mess, but who cares? As kids, we called this the gods level, even though Damocles isn't a god, he's just some dude from a story. But hey, 3 out of 4 isn't bad. I'm not gonna call us dumb kids over that one. I mean, we scored higher than the devs. The topmost door is Poseidon, okay, Neptune, and if you've been traumatized by Act 2 of Chemical Plant Zone, you're gonna hate this. The only thing in here is a dinky little pool. Hopping in, you are sucked a genuinely scary long distance to the bottom of a shaft. Not good. The only passage forward is blocked by a grate. Okay, try not to panic. Behind you and up a bit is a hidden alcove with an underwater lever. One bit of design polish I really appreciate in this game is that if you hold the action button down underwater near an item or lever, Lara will automatically position herself to interact with it. Very handy and a literal lifesaver at times like these. So don't freak out and mash, just hold the button down and Lara will yank the switch in due time, which thankfully here opens the grate to the key. You can see here that even knowing exactly what to do, you barely have enough time to make it safely back to the surface. You don't drown immediately when you run out of oxygen at least, instead your life bar starts draining, which means you'll probably survive this one on your first attempt, but end up burning through a chunk of your recovery items to do so. Not great. The next one down is Atlas. If Neptune was water, what would Atlas be? An abstraction of the cosmos, such as a celestial globe? Close, a boulder. Ah, crap, it's a gorilla. Was that Atlas? When that gate slams down behind you, you know you're in trouble. You can see the boulder waiting to crush you at the top of the hill. There's no indication of what will trigger it, and there are no paths to turn down to avoid it when that happens. Oh boy. Your hint is an image of a boulder on the ground in a small pit at the bottom of the ramp. So, if that's where the boulder is going to end up, maybe it will roll right over our heads if we're not on it when it falls into the pit. Worth a try. Whew. I know it will work, I've done it 100 times, but it always feels like it won't. Tomb Raider works like that somehow. Then, up a few ledges is key number 2. Door number 3 is Thor. This trap scares me because I don't understand it. I'm pretty sure what you're supposed to do is avoid the metal plates because they attract the lightning bolts, but I never touch them and always seem to take a hit anyway. I guess I get the angle wrong or something, but I've never bothered looking up how to get through here unscathed. Whatever, I just heal up afterward and go about my day. Part 2 of Thor's room is just as Thory. We survived the big fella's lightning, and now we gotta do the hammer. This one is easy but stressful. Just stand on the pressure plate until you hear the hammer's support snap, then get out of the way before you become a labra sandwich. This also makes a pushy-pulley block drop nearby that we can use to scale the nearby wall. Every time I do this, I wonder if anyone has ever been unlucky enough to dodge the hammer only to get crushed by the block. That would be quite funny. Actually, is that even possible? I can't find any videos of it happening to anyone. I'm too curious, I need to know. I'll be right back. Not bad. Well, the rest of Thor is simple. Just climb up, do a long jump, and snag key number 3. Of course, I get blasted again on the way out because, like I said, I don't understand this. Last is Damocles. This is the one part of Tomb Raider I clearly remember giving me nightmares. You walk through this busted up hall full of horrific looking long swords all over the ceiling, but nothing happens. Then you waltz right up to the podium with the final key on it and grab it. Okay, that was suspiciously easy, so something nefarious is definitely afoot. Before we've even exited the key room, the first sword glitches through the ceiling and nicks us. So that's how it is. In actuality though, this trap is pretty basic. If you have the patience to only take a couple steps at a time, you probably won't take a single hit. The tension I felt doing this as a child though, oh boy, I couldn't take it. The sound effect of the sword piercing the floor was too much for this young church-going lad. Made it. That's all 4 keys, but now Pierre is back shooting at us again. Cap him enough and he splits. Kill his pet lions too while you're at it. Drop down, use the keys, and that's St. Francis Folly. I'm not sure I did the way I feel about this stage justice, but this is not just my favorite level in Tomb Raider, but one of my favorite anythings of all time. It dazzled, mystified, and terrified my boy brain in 1996, and to this day, if I ruminate on it long enough, it makes me want to play not only it, but the entirety of Tomb Raider again. This tends to happen, I would say, minimum once every couple of years. It's full of memories and great design, and it's obviously S tier. Next up in the Greece section, we have Colosseum. It can't be the Colosseum, you know, because we're in Greece, but it's certainly a Colosseum. The level starts in a big cave with a lake in it. After de-alligatoring it, we emerge in front of a Colosseum. Wow, that was fast. Trying to enter from the front quickly leads to a locked gate, but after a little exploration, you'll find that you can climb up from the side. Follow the path, shimmy over the crocodile pit, drop down to the other side of the locked gate, up some stairs, and bam! Welcome to a Colosseum. This is one of the biggest rooms in the game so far, and you can clearly see the PlayStation barely being able to handle it. I read somewhere once that a bunch of Tomb Raider is supposed to take place outside, but you can't tell because there's no skybox. The meager draw distance simply tapers away into an infinite void. It for sure helps the isolated mood of the game though, so a lucky accident. You kill a lot of lions and gorillas in this level, but before I'm done murdering this batch, Pierre starts shooting me in the butt. He runs away pretty quick this time though. This area is huge, so it might take some exploration to figure out the first place to go. Best take a mental note of this spike pit. Eventually we slide down a ramp toward the back of the Colosseum and end up in the animal cages with yet more lions, subsisting off God knows what down here. There are 2 levers in this room. One opens an exit and the other a room elsewhere on the ground floor. Past some more lion killing and through the newly opened door is another cage area. This one more puzzly. Just gotta run over the gray pressure plate and pull a nearby lever before time runs out and we make it to another lever. Pulling that one opens up an exit and allows us to proceed. I appreciate this part where you run by the spike pit we looked down into earlier. It really sells the interconnectedness of this level's design and even makes some thematic sense because, you know, they would have needed access to these spikes back in the day to clean all the animal and non-animal carcasses off of them. Past the spikes, we climb up a rock face and eventually make our way to the Emperor's viewing area or balcony or, you know, I'm not really sure what to call it. I hope that gorilla wasn't the Emperor because I just shot him in the face. I hope that gorilla wasn't the Emperor because I just shot him in the face. Pulling a block out of the wall reveals a lever. Pulling that lever reveals a door opening somewhere else. Backtracking through the area, we eventually find the door we opened. Awesome, another boulder trap. This one's cleverness really stood out to me as a child. It's pretty simple, really. Just jump forward, hang, and the boulder goes right over you. Lara's got fingers of steel, I tell you what. Up the boulder ramp is another frickin' lever, opening another door we gotta go find. Ugh, Pierre again. The next room is a simple jumping sequence that honestly seems a bit undercooked for being this late in the game. And at the top is a lever, opening another door that we gotta go find. Getting down is a bit tricky though, so maybe that's what they were going for with it. That's the element that's supposed to make it stand out. Guess what's through the next door? Yeah, a lever, dum-dum, what else? This one I'll give credit to for at least being funny. Remember this lever. We'll call it the funny lever. Next to the funny lever is some water. Through the water is a block we can push. Past the block is a key. This key is not funny. We're gonna call this the unfunny key. If you were paying attention to the game footage, it's okay if you weren't. At this point, you may have ascertained that the door the funny lever opened and the lock that the unfunny key go to are both back on the Emperor's balcony. So now we must backtrack there. Through the door the funny lever opened is the reason I called it the funny lever. It's an immediate dead end with a save point in it. Completely pointless. Designed, I believe, as a deliberate time-wasting joke, baiting players back to this final part of the level before they'd finished exploring and acquired the unfunny key, thinking they'd opened a path forward when really they hadn't. That is pretty funny. But I know this game's tricks and I have the unfunny key. It opens a gate to some neither funny nor unfunny water, which leads to one last God-blessed lever and the end of the stage. Colosseum is a good stage, but has some problems. I enjoy how it's built almost entirely around a single location, which makes it immersive and fun to explore, but I think the path through it over-relies on backtracking, making it mostly feel like go here, pull lever, open door, go there, pull lever, open door, etc. It's also the first level of the game that doesn't feel more dangerous and intimidating than the one before it. Traps and hazards-wise, I'd say it's one of the tamer stages of the game, unless you really have trouble shooting all the lions and gorillas. Still a fun stage though, and I do enjoy clearing it each time. We're going high B tier on this one, above caves. Palace Midas. This is where the game takes a turn for the evil. I bet this level ended many a child's Tomb Raider clearing hopes and dreams back in the day. Not ours though, not ours. You start in a large natatorium. I just learned that word 5 seconds ago by Googling what is a room with an indoor pool in it called, by the way.
I just learned something.
That has 3 mysterious hallways leading from it. The hall straight ahead leads to some ruins and a rather ridiculous onslaught of gorillas, then to a building with a front door that suspiciously opens by itself as we approach it. Uh-oh. But the path inside quickly dead ends into a lever. The designers are growing cheekier by the stage. The lever opens a gate down the left path from the starting area, which leads to a garden with a secret entrance to a destroyed statue of King Midas, who was said to have ruled in what is now modern-day Turkey, but hey, Tomb Raider plays fast and loose with mythologies, so close enough. There's nothing really for us to do here now except die in the most horrible and harrowing manner of early 3D gaming. Check this out. Yeah, I did not like seeing that as a kid. Where we're really supposed to go first is down the right path, which quickly splits again with stairs leading up to the left and the hall we're already in continuing onward. Continuing onward only leads to some items and enemies to kill, and also to the mysterious sound of unseen flames, but up the stairs is the level's main hub. The gimmick here is that there are doors spread throughout the room that each have a pattern of symbols above them. Then, in the center of the room, on an elevated platform, are 5 side-by-side levers that correspond to these symbols. Oh, nice, the Tomb Raider theme again. There are only 2 symbols, one for up and one for down, so the patterns are pretty simple to decode. We even unlock a convenient shortcut so we don't have to schlep ourselves across a bunch of platforms again to come back and enter a new code when we want to open a different door. One of these doors leads to a room with slots for 3 metal bars, so we have our mission. Stage 3 was gears, Stage 5 was keys, Stage 7 is bars. The door leading to bar number 1 takes us to a room watery yet fiery. This is also the first appearance of these disgusting giant rats that swim around and try to nibble diseases into you. Figurative diseases only though, not mechanical ones. Regardless, kill them. This sequence is quite easy if you don't mind taking a little heat damage, which I don't. Just stay off to the side as you jump across so you don't set Lara ablaze, then heal up afterward. That's bar number 1. The door to bar number 2 takes us into a large chamber with a pillar in the center. Heading into the basement, we pull a block out from its resting place and the world appears to explode. Going back up, we see that no, it just caused a structural collapse in the room we sauntered through earlier, no big deal. Actually, kind of big deal, because now we can platform across all this debris to make it to the other side. This jump to the pillar here is a tense one, because the angle really makes it look too far to make. Next, we climb some rocks and emerge at the top of the room we were in when we continued onward earlier instead of taking the stairs up to the room with all the coded doors. This is another part of the game that felt like sheer magic to me as a kid. The reveal that the building you were under before is actually an aqueduct that you can climb up into and swim through is so cool. Swimming through it is pointless, however, as it disappointingly leads to a dead end. Spoilers, this dead end room is here as a water cushion in case you fall from the room above later, but if you never fall and figure that out, it does seem pretty mystifying. The real path forward is actually a floor down from the roof of the aqueduct. Now you can tell we're in the same general area as before because we again hear the invisible flames, though they are less mysterious now that we've seen and traversed through their source. It's pretty cool that you can hear them through the wall. It's like the geometry in Tomb Raider is real, man. Those flames are really over there. Hopping across the corner here to a different part of the floor takes us to one of the most surprisingly tense parts of the game. The path you need to walk down is very narrow, with plenty of scary corners who knows what could be hiding around. You can tell I'm feeling it because I'm walking as I round each corner. Remember, I haven't been using mid-level save points at all up until this point. Then, my worst nightmare comes true. Behind me, a gorilla materializes from an unseen alcove right as I'm nearing the edge. My heart stops. By the way, one thing I haven't really gotten into too deeply in this video is how glitchy Tomb Raider is. I'm sure throughout all this footage you've noticed a number of them. At times, Tomb Raider's glitches can be infuriating, like when they cause an instant unavoidable death, but at other times... they save your butt. Thank you, Tomb Raider glitch god. Returning to where I teleported to safety from, I take a flying leap across this gap to this little alcove in the wall. This is another one of those jumps that looks impossible until you muster up the courage to do it. Continuing up and up and up takes us to a room with some decently disguised collapsing tiles in the center. By the way, this is where if you fall from, you end up in the aqueduct dead end. Hopping safely across takes us to a series of ramps and ledges to drop down, and we emerge into the very first room of the level. What was it called? The Natatorium. I am a huge fan of this sequence of the game because the penalty for falling is much different than what we've gotten used to. Not bodily injury or death, but time. Think of how long it took us to get to this point. This started all the way back in that room with the collapsed pillar. The idea of slipping off and having to do it all again is terrifying. So of course, the designers immediately try to make you panic and do just that by sending a tiger after you. Carefully progressing across the ledge, we come to another familiar room. The area with the ruins and the gorilla ambush, and we're scared all over again of falling and losing all our hard-fought progress. One particularly fiendish design touch of this jump is that if you do fall and try to hop back up out of dismay and disbelief, these platforms are just barely out of Lara's reach when she jumps at full height. Like I said, this level is when the Tomb Raider designers start revealing their evil side. Luckily, I do not fall. It's not even a very far jump for that matter. And at this point, if this is your first time playing through this game, you're thinking, when is this going to end? Where the crap is this metal bar? Well, a short swim and hop onto a roof later, it turns out. Finally. Getting down from this roof is so scary because it's very high up and these lions are practically glued to your shadow. But we do it, we're back on the ground, bar in hand and somewhat dreading what bar number 3 has in store for us. Spikes, spikes, and more spikes, it turns out. Geez Louise. Running past them, we find a switch behind a block, which raises up the platforms in the center of all the spike traps, giving us a path across. Check out this jump here. It's diabolical. Look how the designers put a slanted ceiling all around the platform you need to get to, so it looks like you're gonna bump into it and fall to your death. But you just gotta do it, man. There's only one path across. After landing on the platform, you can see that there's actually plenty of clearance, and it was just an optical trick played on you by the game devs. Like I said, evil, and it's not over. The platforms lead to a passageway directly abutting the slanted ceiling now, with no indication whatsoever on how this will affect the trajectory of your jump. You just gotta feel it out, go for it, then wipe off your sweaty hands. Of course, there's one final panic attack in the form of a surprise gorilla, so run forward to safety before engaging him. Better some gorilla punches to the gut than a spike through it. Metal bar number 3 is ours, baby. The jump out of here is kinda scary too. I always do a long jump over to the side to ensure proper spike clearance, but I'm sure other Tomb Raider vets have their own go-to moves. Okay, we're safe. We got our 3 bars, level over, right? No, not quite. This is the part of the game I think we were stuck on the longest as kids, and this time for a pretty good reason. You see, if you try to shove these metal bars into the clearly metal bar-shaped slots at the end of the level, all you get is an emphatic, Britishy, "No," from Lara. What gives? Remember where we are though, and remember the manner of Lara's terribly shiny earlier demise. That's right, gold. The touch of Midas. You know, I don't think this particular puzzle solution is hinted at enough as it probably should be. All you get is this 3 times metal bar sign above the slots where you need to enter them. I feel like an additional hint would have made this more intuitive. How it is now, the game kinda relies on you accidentally dying by hopping into Midas's hand to learn that it can turn things into gold. A minor criticism for one of the most iconic levels of the game, but I thought it worth mentioning. The process by which you mechanically turn the metal bars into gold is bizarre as well. Nothing on the hand indicates that it's interactive, and the action button in Tomb Raider is context sensitive, so if you're holding up when you press it, instead of bringing up your item menu, Lara will gleefully vault up into Midas's hand and get turned into another corpse trophy. If that weren't enough, I think this is the only time in the entire game where you have to press X twice on the item screen to confirm that you'd like to use it. Why they did that is beyond me. Did they want you second guessing this action for some reason? I don't know. All of this weirdness does make simply standing in place and using 3 items one after the other surprisingly tense, so maybe this is all intentional and an additional layer of design genius on behalf of the Tomb Raider team. It's a nice thought, but I have my doubts. Anyway, our bars are now gold, so we can proceed to the final room of the level, slot them in, slide down the newly revealed ramp, and that's Palace Midas. Despite the weirdness with the gold bars, Palace Midas is nearly as great as St. Francis Folly, and just as hand-sweatingly tense. The elongated platforming sequence that takes you on an elevated hike back across the entirety of the level is a slice of gaming heaven. The door code puzzles give the stage a very unique flavor, and the spike room with the slanted ceilings is one of the scariest traps yet. Gotta be S tier. Not quite St. Francis Folly good, how could it be, but not all that far off either. Now, if I remember correctly, Palace Midas is the last stage I played upon my initial interest in Tomb Raider. I know I've been saying 1996 a lot throughout this video, but I don't actually have a clear memory of when we got it. It might have been 1997. I mention that now because it may have been the release of Final Fantasy VII that distracted me from it. I didn't even play Final Fantasy VII all the way through until I later borrowed a copy from a soccer teammate. Not Larry Jackson, a different one. Let's call him Jimmy Pooven. But I was renting games like crazy around then, and I know Final Fantasy VII was in the mix. I don't know the exact timeline, but the point is, my memories of playing Stage 8 and onward of Tomb Raider come a lot later, but I still have some of watching my brother play them. I honestly may have been a teenager by the time I got around to clearing Tomb Raider properly for myself. JRPGs dominated that era of my life, you see, but at this point I'm just rambling. Stage 8, the Cistern, is a pretty sizable step up in terms of navigational complexity. I remember feeling too dumb for it upon first attempt, which may have been what bounced me out of Tomb Raider and into the comforting arms of easier PlayStation titles. It's the closest thing the game has to a water temple, a comparison for reasons that will soon be quite obvious, though perhaps it should be the other way around considering Tomb Raider came out 2 years before Ocarina of Time. The bulk of the level is like one big puzzle box, and you can do a bunch of things in it in different orders, but I'm solely going to go over the path I took through it on this latest playthrough and leave it at that. Play the game and get stuck here if you want to experience its non-linearity for yourself. Starting off, we drop from a ledge and do some rat murder. The devs keep finding new things for pushy-pulley blocks to do, in this case serve as a platform we can pull this lever from, which frees some more rats for us to kill and also opens a hole in the ground. Down the hole is the entrance to the Cistern proper, and another instance of the Tomb Raider theme, 2 levels in a row. Looking around the room, you can see the geometry of the area is pretty complicated. There are platforms everywhere. it's hard to know where to start. I decided to try and tackle this level a little differently than I usually do, starting by hopping over to this side path here and shimmying along until I can pull myself up to the higher ledge and grab my first key. Backtracking to the door nearest to the entrance, I was pleasantly surprised to find it actually worked. Jumping up this series of platforms spawns another Pierre fight. He gave Palace Midas a miss, but he's back. He runs off soon enough, allowing us to finish the platforming sequence in peace and drop down into a second room full of platforms and gators. There's only one way forward, and it eventually takes us to a door-opening lever. I definitely died here as a reckless child. It just doesn't seem like a place a spike trap would be, but there it is. This is a bit of a scary jump off to the side of it here. Then we drop down into a sewer of some sort with moss-covered walls. These rats do very little damage, they're just gross, so don't sweat them too much. Finding the route to climb up is a little trickier here than in the previous rooms, but after hopping around a bit, we find our way up to a hidden lever that reveals another key, and another Pierre encounter. This dive into the water is a one-way trip as the ledges are too high to pull ourselves back up, but we got the key already, so we're probably good to go. The water takes us to another mossy room with another key behind another door and the sound of rats ratting about overhead. We can't reach anything useful at the moment though, so we just swim on until we emerge back into the main hub via the central pool. Where to next? There are keys and doors all over the place, but that doesn't help us right now. Some vertical exploration reveals a balcony with a room we can enter and crap, Pierre again? This dude is all over this level. After he flees again, we pull a switch that makes some water temple-y sounds, then proceed through an underwater passage where we find a key. That makes two now we need to find a use for. We make our way back to the main room and discover that those water temple-y sounds we heard earlier also did some water temple-y things. Our first order of business with this elevated water level is to swim back to the room earlier that everything was too high to reach in, and lo and behold, now we can reach a lever, kill those ratting rats, and snag a third key. Swimming back through the main room and finally using one of the keys we've amassed takes us to another water passage to drop into. Ugh, good thing I raised the water before coming this way, or else that would have resulted in a spiky death. This area is a bit maze-like, but nothing too bad, and we snag a key. A key for a key. That's net zero keys for you stat buffs out there. Finally, we head to an ornate entryway at the top of the room that we can now easily swim to, where we use 1, 2, all 3 keys to proceed. This next room is one of my favorites in the game. I love how marbly and fancy it looks, and I love how secretly scary it is, because though it looks harmless upon first glance, there are actually collapsing tiles strewn about in it that lead directly to spike pit death. The artists did a good job hiding the death traps here. They're hard to spot. I haven't saved this entire level, so I'm too scared to actually trigger them and show you what they look like, but believe me, they're there. At the end of the room is a lever. Remember the funny lever from the Colosseum? Well, this is its sequel. The Funny Lever 2, even funnier. You'll see that after pulling it, I immediately hop up onto this ledge here because I know the trick. All the lever does is open a door containing 3 lions who instantly rush you. The goal obviously being to make you panic and accidentally fall into one of the spike traps behind you while you're making your retreat. The room the lions come from is totally pointless too, containing a switch that does nothing but shut the door behind you, potentially locking you in here with lions if you happen to have rushed in here for safety. Okay, if you have the patience to push this block all the way across the room and through the doorway, it does let you hop up to the roof and grab some items, but it's not even a secret, just a consolation for the devs messing with you. The actual path forward this whole time was this long drop into some water behind the block you just moved. The entire lion saga was completely unnecessary to clear the level, which we now drop down and do. The Cistern is a very solid level, requiring thought, patience, and some clever exploration to navigate through. It's basically a better executed version of the same single central location concept of the Colosseum, and the interactive layer it adds with the water level raising gimmick is very cool. I'm thinking A tier, a bit better than City of Vilcabamba, but not quite as exciting as Tomb of Qualopec. Last in the Greek gauntlet is our second tomb, the Tomb of Tihocan. We start off in the water passage we just plummeted down into, which takes us to another "oh crap, I'm gonna drown" sequence as you search for a way out. As always, a semi-hidden passage to a lever is the answer, which lowers the water enough for us to surface and proceed through a now openable door. The next room contains another simple platforming sequence with some darts thrown in just to scare you, and another water level changing switch. This one raising up a box I suppose is made up of some sort of buoyant material, though it certainly looks like stone. This mysterious box then leads us to the room's exit and another water maze that has this cool part where it blasts you forward Neptune style. We emerge in a vertical shaft that we proceed to ascend. There are multiple exits to choose from, and the first one we take leads straight to Pierre. Man, I'm getting sick of this dude. He's been trying to murder us for 5 levels straight, on top of being a litter bug. After Pierre finally skedaddles, we run into, or better, we don't run into, our first of one of the more distressing trap types in the game. These metal gates with razor-sharp teeth that repeatedly slam together. The sound these things make will disrupt your dreams by the time you clear Tomb Raider, so steel yourself now. The timing of running safely through them really isn't too hard, but it always feels like you're gonna mess it up and get chopped in half. 'Tis the mark of effective aesthetics, but whoops, the path dead ends into a few meager ammo pickups, so back through the Gate of Death we go. The other exit is only reachable via a long jump past a nasty pendulum blade, making its first appearance since all the way back on stage 2. I'm usually not great at timing these sorts of jumps, but I make it through unscathed here, so please leave a comment below about how impressed you are. The path beyond leads to a ledge we can shimmy across, and yet another water-level manipulating lever, giving us a nice fall cushioning basin to drop into. Wait, this is the room we were just in with the ammo pickups. That whole other exit was pointless. Maybe the devs thought first-time players would be too intimidated by the death gate upon first encounter, so decided to make their debut appearance optional. Regardless, the elevated water lets us now reach the exit, where through another water passage is a room with some spikes and a lion. One errant somersault and you're a dead Lara, so be careful. A nearby hidden lever opens up an as of yet unseen room above us, so we climb up, kill some gorillas, and there it is. This jump right here is the best part of the level. It's pure malice. Below us are the spikes from the lower floor, and in front of us is a curved ledge that is too high to jump to, except for a teeny tiny little portion of it on the very, very, very left. This is another pray to whatever god you believe in and go for it moment. Ugh, just made it. Inside the room is a gold key, which will come in handy very shortly, but don't mess up the jump on the way out and end up humiliatingly dead. Nearby is a keyhole that the key we've had all of 10 seconds fits nicely into. In one of the most bizarrely lazy sequences of the game, all this does is raise up some water and platforms to jump across in a straight line. It feels like something was supposed to happen here that got cut. Contrarily, the next room is pretty cool. We got locked doors all over the place, a pushy-pulley block, and some suspicious pressure plates with strange writing on them. As you might expect, each pressure plate is connected to a corresponding door, so let's see what's behind door number 1. A gorilla and some ammo. Door number 2? A boulder trap that tries to use a healing item as bait to get you squished. This definitely got me once upon a time, but it's easy if you know what's coming. Just run across to safety and a key, and get the item on your way out. Door 3 is rats and an item. The last pressure plate actually opens up 2 doors. The ground floor one just has another gorilla and some ammo. The other can be conveniently jumped to from atop the block on the pressure plate and leads to our first non-optional Gate of Death and a second key. The keys open up a nearby door and we're on to the final area of the stage. I know I said the last room was cool a few moments ago, but I mostly meant in concept. In execution, it's actually a bit lackluster. The traps are all simple and most of the doors only contain items. Oh well. You slide down a ramp and out of a creepy-looking mouth into a large body of water, the largest of the game so far, I believe. Pretty quickly, we find a cave entrance to climb up into, and through it lies a switch that opens an underwater door somewhere in the vicinity. Dropping into the water again and swimming out through a passage and back into the main area, we lift ourselves onto a platform and come face to face with the tomb of Tihocan. We made it! I can't say I like the look of those centaur statues though. A bit intimidating, but luckily they don't come to life and attack us or anything. The door to the tomb is shut, of course, so explore we must. The underwater hallway with the door we opened is pretty well hidden, but with some tenacity we eventually find it and it takes us to another lever that opens the door to the tomb. On our way through said door, however, one of the statues does suddenly come to life and attack us because, of course it does. And it has a sick hand cannon that it uses to rain infinite destruction down on us. Not to worry, 6 or so shotgun blasts later, it makes a horsey noise and explodes. The other one seems chill, for now, so we enter the tomb. Pierre has beaten us to the second piece of the Scion. He must have waited for us to open the door to it and snuck in. But that's actually good news, because now we can finally kill him. Die! 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 I like that he takes more shots to put down than the ancient centaur monster. He's a very resilient fellow. Looting his corpse produces a trifecta of goodies. The second piece of the Scion, of course, a pair of magnums, which are a significant upgrade to our pistols, and a key. The key goes to a lock on a platform up above, which opens a door back down where we just were. Through it is a cutscene of no real plot significance and the end of the stage. Tomb of Tihocan isn't bad, but it is a disappointment as the conclusion to the Greece section of the game. It's more linear, simple, and repetitive than the levels that led up to it, so I really can't go higher than B tier. It's more interesting than Caves, but I find Colosseum more memorable. We are then treated to an FMV of Lara combining the two pieces of the Scion currently in her possession, which bestows upon her a mystical vision and reveals the location of the third. Egypt. Let's go. City of Khamoon is up. First things first, let's switch to the magnums. Second things second, check out this move. You can hang from a ledge, drop down by releasing the action button, then quickly hold it again to grab the ledge below. It felt like the future the first time I did this. Well, the whole game felt like the future, but you know what I mean. This first area is a simple block puzzle that teaches us that pushy-pulley blocks can be pushed and pulled across other pushy-pulley blocks, which is good information to have. Well, it would be if this idea was ever used again. Climbing up and out of this starting area, we come across a small Sphinx statue, probably the most iconic image of the Egypt section of the game. Well, maybe not this Sphinx, but whoops, spoilers. A weird mummy creature that looks more or less identical to the creepy motionless things surrounding Qualopec's throne back on stage 4 enters the room, and when we kill it, it explodes just like the giant centaur monster. Get used to this, most of the enemies explode upon death from this point on. There's also a panther that tried to sneak up on us, so let's kill that too. You gotta watch out for these things, they drain your health lightning fast. Exploring around a bit, we find a pillar with slots on it for 4 different key items. A block we can pull from between the Sphinx's legs that leads to a locked door, and climbing up to the back of the Sphinx's hollowed out head, the key to it. The next hallway has some statues, platforms, a couple more panthers to kill, and a key we can barely make out through a huge window we could easily fit through if the game had a button to make Lara do it. Further on is another large room with a trapdoor in the ground, a small body of water, a dope cat statue above another trapdoor, and the easiest to dodge boulder trap in the entire game. In the water is a passage to a very nice looking vertical shaft and the Tomb Raider theme once again. Laying it on a bit thick now, aren't we? Just kidding, I love it. You should be pretty used to seeing these climbing puzzle rooms by now. This one has some minor trickiness with how to correctly position the blocks, but nothing too crazy. We make our way to a lever that extends out a giant golden platform in the center of the room. We push around some more blocks and oh god, that's cheap. Get off. Oh, thanks for the save, I guess, Tomb Raider glitch god, but I had that just fine. Teleporting back to where I was, there's a lever that opens a trapdoor in the ceiling above the giant golden platform, so up we go and soon see another lever that opens the trapdoor we saw in the previous area around the cat statue. I opt for the laziest possible backtracking option and accidentally discover a secret. Below Mr. Cat, the path splits in 2 directions. One is dark and has panther sounds in it, but we can pull a nearby lever and let in some light. Pretty neat. You know, this area seems pretty sizable, so let's go back and check the other direction. Maybe there's a... Wait, what? Okay, so let's not go that direction because it's bullshit. No. And go kill the panthers. Crap, I missed the jump. Crap, more panthers. Remember, I'm not saving. I had to replay the entire level to get back to this point, so I'm shook. Jumping up a broken pillar, then to a further ledge reveals an exit, but I really don't like this, man. It's zigzagging back and forth like it's purposely building up tension for some... Oh, not again. That took quite a bit of damage, though. Ugh, my heart rate is climbing. The room we exit into is strangely empty except for a bit of sand in the corner. Proceeding up the staircase to the floor above, there is a similar room, but with a lot more sand. Hey, what's on this pedestal? Oh, it's the key we saw through the huge, easily traversable window way back when. Up the sandhill is a passage to some small platforms we can hop across to a lever. The lever makes a strange sound that upon backtracking is revealed to have been the sound of the sand draining away into the floor below it. If you haven't noticed, Tomb Raider is full of these switches and triggers that cause environmental state changes that the team didn't have the technical ability to animate, so they just don't show the transition. A perfectly understandable workaround, but it does lead to some confusion from time to time, especially on your initial playthrough. Anyway, dropping back down to the room below and up the newly created sand ramp is a double door we already have the key for, and the end of the level. City of Khamoon is a decent level that introduces a lot of the new level design concepts that Egypt will be using, such as an increased focus on nerve-wracking surprise enemy attacks and more unpredictable terrain navigation due to all the sand, which is, of course, rough and irritating and gets everywhere. That being said, it lacks the it factor the best Tomb Raider levels have, that memorable spark, and I'm still bitter about the cheap gacha where the flat platform suddenly turned into a spike slide. How could they? B tier, but better than Tomb of Tihocan. Next is Obelisk of Khamoon, which starts right where we left off. Through a very sandy hallway, we find a locked door, a room with many pushy-pulley blocks, and the lovely, lovely Tomb Raider theme. I genuinely never get sick of it. Maybe I would if it played on a loop throughout large portions of the game, but the music deciders were smart and didn't do that. According to an interview Nathan McCree did with Retro Gamer, so says Wikipedia at least, he had so little time to make the score to the game that he had to compose all the music as little 2 to 3 minute pieces, and the dev team simply slotted them throughout the stages as he made them where they thought they worked best. So, partly unintentional, but hey, it works. You know, I actually had a brief correspondence with Nathan McCree once. I bought a vinyl copy of the Tomb Raider suite and 6 weeks passed and I'd still yet to get a shipping notification, so I contacted their support email. Nathan himself responded with the tracking number and said it had already been delivered. Lo and behold, just earlier that day, it had been. I looked like an idiot. Here, this might be funny. Let me dig up my response to his email and read it to you. All right, so this is my email. This is my email when Nathan McCree responded to my request where my Tomb Raider suite vinyl was. Nathan himself, your compositions for the first Tomb Raider are so beautiful. Some of my absolute favorite pieces of video game music ever. Iconic stuff, my man. I have great news. Using the shipping info you just provided, I tracked the package down to a parcel locker in my building and have it in my hands as we speak. Thanks so much for your help. Can't wait to listen and get all teary-eyed with nostalgia. Jeff. He did not respond. Okay, back to the game. Blocks everywhere, so let's start with the leftmost. Behind it is a watery passage that leads to a gorgeous pool chamber with an underwater jungle gym of sorts that, through some diligent exploration, reveals a key. This is actually already the key to the door we passed earlier, and an elevated passageway in the block room itself. Well, that was fast. I didn't expect to find the key that quickly. I guess we'll push the rest of those blocks around later. The door leads to another water chamber, this one with a massive pillar in the middle of it and a mysterious underwater door. Tucked away in the back corner is a sand ramp that gives me visceral Spike Death flashbacks. Thankfully, it's just a baby slide down to some more sand. Rounding the corner is our first panther encounter of the stage. Climbing up higher into the room and into this adjacent one, we find some mummy creatures who seem to have not spawned in properly and don't even respond to gunfire. I feel like we're not supposed to be in here, so let's go back to the previous room. Climbing up higher and not into the adjacent room, our platforming eventually takes us to a staircase with a mummy creature that does spawn in properly and attacks us. A nearby lever drops a drawbridge down to a key item, of which there are 4. One on each side of the central pillar, and the mission of the stage becomes clear. Dropping down into a gated area, we grab some items, climb back up, carefully walk by these pillars, and check it out. There's something on top of the central pillar. Let's go for it. Oh, it's just a secret. Let's head back. Okay, let's not go for that secret and check out the area at the top of the staircase instead. This view of the hub area is awesome, isn't it? What's down this hole? Great, another ramp. Well, there's nowhere else to go, so... Well, the Tomb Raider glitch god giveth, and the Tomb Raider glitch god taketh away. I'm really starting to regret this whole not saving the game thing. Alright, I'm back. 3rd time's the charm. I still haven't learned my lesson and used any save points, so let's hope for the best. The ramp mercifully decides to let me live this time, and it leads down into a sand pit. A switch under the ramp converts it into a climbable series of ledges, which I definitely prefer as long as it's not under a timer or anything. But I don't remember that being the case, so up we go. We can now access a portal to the central pillar area with the drawbridges. A switch to our right seemingly does nothing except make the same ramp to stairs transformation sound as the previous, but before we go back to check, let's hop over here and grab our first key item. As we pick it up, we get a cutaway to our friend, the mysterious underwater door, indicating that will be our ultimate destination. Returning to Ramp City, we find the stairs have indeed been changed back into a ramp, but another ramp that goes even higher has been changed into stairs. Again, up we go. We are extremely high up now, so falling would be not great, but there is a ledge we can shimmy across to safety. Whoa, major texture bug. Behind this stairified ramp are some rampified stairs and a small room with another lever. This does what you'd expect, and we climb up the new stairs to another mummy encounter and 2 more switches. Switch 1 opens up a shortcut back to where we first dropped into Ramp City from, and Switch 2 drops our second drawbridge. Progress. Using the shortcut to re-enter Ramp City, thankfully the first ramp is currently in stairs form, and back through the portal to the central pillar, we grab our second key item. This time, we leave the area through a different exit instead of backtracking, which takes us to a strange dark room filled with platforms and ledges we can shimmy across. This area is one of the stranger platforming puzzles in the game. You basically have to work your way slowly around the perimeter of the room, back to where you started, but slightly lower where there is a different exit. It's very unintuitive because you feel like you're climbing down to the ground level, but if you actually do fall to the ground and have to climb your way back up, you'll end up back at the beginning again. I find it hard to picture the geometry of this room in my head, and it hurts my brain. I like that. But where does it take us? To our third drawbridge lever. Find our way back out the room the way we came in, and there it is, key item number 3. I'm not 100% sure this is the way you're supposed to access this part of the level, but I make my way over to the 4th drawbridge with a risky hanging long jump. Okay, it's definitely not, because there's another motionless untriggered mummy. A lever, awesome, that's drawbridge 4 and our last key item. The mysterious underwater doors open. A staircase leads down to the block room from the very beginning of the stage. Oh, so that's how you're supposed to get in. And also triggers Mr. Motionless upstairs. I know I have everything I need to proceed to the end of the level, but I'm curious as to what's behind the other 3 pushy-pulley blocks. Okay, block number 2 is just a panther trap and some items. Block number 3 is a panther trap and no items. And block number 4 is a panther trap and 1 item. Wow, my always start from the left strategy really worked out this time, didn't it? Alrighty, time to swim through the mysterious underwater door and see where it takes us. Apparently to a dangerously long passage with a bunch of items I'm going to skip because I don't feel like drowning. After we exit, we do some mummy murder, a little exploration, and oh, hello again, Mr. Sphinx. We're back to an area from the previous level. But why? Oh, that's right, the pillar with the 4 item slots makes perfect sense. We slot them in. It opens a large door on the other side of the area, and that's the end of the level. Obelisk of Khamoon is very good. It's the most open-ended level in the entire game, as you may have noticed from me accidentally discovering multiple areas in unintended ways. Its navigational challenge is stimulating without being frustrating or overly reliant on backtracking, and the Obelisk set piece with the 4 drawbridges is one of the game's most distinct. It's also one of the only levels in the game that takes you back to a previously completed stage, and definitely the most impactful of those that do, which gives it some unique flavor. Even with all that, I don't find it to be a particularly fun level to actually play despite all its merits. So I'm going to stick it at the top of B tier out of respect for its design. The third and final Egypt stage is Sanctuary of the Scion, effectively making this our third and final tomb we'll be raiding. Though, I don't think anyone is actually buried here. Like I said, I find this game's story very hard to follow. We start out at the foot of a massive staircase leading up into darkness. This part of the game has no special significance to me personally, but I remember quite clearly that it's one of my brother's favorites. He wrote a whole essay about how awesome and terrifying he thought it was. I remember reading it. He called them the stairs. He wrote about how freaky it was when the galloping mummy monsters emerged from the darkness and leapt toward him. He claimed it was the scariest moment of the whole game. I don't know about all that, but it's a memorable visual to start a level with, that's for sure. To the left and right of the stairs are a couple of gates, one with an item slot next to it and the other with the corresponding item behind it. So that's interesting. But they're both locked, so I guess up the stairs is the only way to go. Sure enough, a couple mummy freaks come at us, but we have plenty of space to take them both out before they reach us. I don't know what my brother was pissing his pants about, but I suppose you'd have to ask him. Up the stairs and a short climb later, we arrive on a large sloping platform surrounded by rock formations. Sliding down to the ground, we begin to explore. We have a large door, an area off to the side with a bunch of pillars we'll probably be hopping across later, and turning around we see that the sloping platform we were on top of earlier was actually the back of a large Sphinx statue, about twice the size the previous stage's Sphinx was. I mean, that was a pretty okay Sphinx, but just look at this unit. We really are in Egypt. Between his legs is another shut door and a cool cinematic camera angle. Then, wrapping around to the other side of the Sphinx, we come to a dead end. Gee, where are we supposed to go? That sounded sarcastic, but I actually meant it. I guess we gotta find some place to start climbing, so let's go back to the pillar area and yeah, here we go. Climb, 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 hop, hop, hop. Really, a gate of death here? They all require the exact same timing, so just stay calm and proceed. The designers love using the rocky environment in this level to disguise gaps, so we gotta be careful and keep checking the ground as we move forward. We come to a beautiful golden lever, yank it, and a door in a rock face opens elsewhere in the stage. Wait, is that something flying in the distance? You gotta be kidding me, the mummies have wings now? Ugh, these things are the stuff of nightmares. Just knowing they're out there and can show up at any time to knock you to your death is enough to get your heart rate up. Couple that with not using save points and yeah, I'm officially stressing. This first one went down easy, but there will be more. Many, many more. We drop down safely and explore around some more for another path up. This stage does a great job of not making it obvious where you can and can't traverse, which makes navigating through it highly rewarding. We find one and carefully cross it, but instead of taking us to the door we opened, it takes us to another lever. This one opens the door we saw right after sliding off the Sphinx's back and hopefully doesn't summon another winged demon. Oh crap, it did. Let's wedge ourselves back in this corner for safety and whew, that was close. We could drop down to the ground and go through the door we opened, but the path actually continues onward, so let's see where it takes us. Oh, would you look at that? The first door we opened. Inside is a simple block puzzle and another centaur monster. Are these things a type of Atlantean or some sort of monsters they created? I don't get it. More importantly, we find an Ankh, which is clearly a key of some sort. Returning to the Sphinx area, we conveniently find a ramp we can slide down to the Sphinx's back once again, which is right next to the other door we recently opened. I wonder what's inside this one. Just a cave with some water in it, nothing dangerous. The way you find the path forward is pretty neat though. You have to hop on the slide backwards, catch the ledge when you fall, and shimmy over. These designers are getting quite a lot of mileage out of a relatively small set of mechanics. Respect. Climbing into another watery cave, we spot a key at the bottom of it and nab it. We then do a slide jump up to the bridge above and use the key to open a door. Another centaur, another Ankh. Only where to use them? This would have taken me forever to find out if I didn't already know what to do, but you see this slanted platform on the Sphinx's back? You can actually walk on that, even though it really looks like you can't. And that slanted ledge in front of it, you can actually jump to that, even though it really looks like you can't. I said it before, but it bears repeating, you really gotta be curious in this game. It does not always reveal itself to you willingly. Anyway, up here are two slots for the two Ankhs, one on the back of the Sphinx's headdress, and the other on the front. Somewhat expectedly, placing them both opens the door between Big Boy's legs, which reveals a lengthy drop into some water. Visually, this is one of my favorite moments in the entire game. What looked from up top to be a single tile of water is revealed to be a huge underwater lake as you fall into it. And what's more, as you hit the water and the momentum carries you forward, two breathtakingly colossal underwater statues come into view, all accompanied by an enchanting oboe melody. This area is somewhat stressful to explore because it's so deep, by the time you get to the bottom and start looking around, your oxygen meter is already half gone. Eventually, we find between the right statue's feet a very hard to spot lever and give it a pull. Opening it shoots us up through a water chamber against our will, and we come to a small room with some pillars in it. Hopping across said pillars takes us to a ramp leading to some place clearly very high up and another winged demon. This part is very intense because you can't really get a good shot on the monster from the top of the ramp, and the platform at the bottom of the ramp is just a teeny tiny little thing with nowhere to hide. Oh well, let's go for it. At this point, my hands were shaking. I really should have saved at some point. I don't know what I was trying to prove. Looking down, it becomes clear that this is the same room we were just in with the giant statues, but half the water's been drained out of it. Oh, that's why we were pushed up through the water chamber before. It was the pressure of the water draining from behind us. We carefully lower ourselves down to the laps of the statues to do some more exploring. I always thought this was weird here, how the water rises right up to the same height as the ledge we use to lift ourselves out. I think this is the only spot in the entire game like this. In the right statue's lap, we find a switch we can now pull which opens up a passage between left statue's feet. This takes us up a very, very, very long circular ramp that leads back to the stairs at the beginning of the level. An Atlantean death squad awaits us there, which I rush directly into for some stupid reason and almost die multiple times. Is Atlantean even the right word? I feel like I'm talking about people from Atlanta. Whatever, we can now insert the nearby key into its nearby home where a suspicious slide takes us to the final room of the level. Somehow Larson beat us here, which makes no sense, but at least we get to murder him and not just kick him in the face this time. Past his corpse is an eerily lit staircase that takes us right to the final piece of the Scion, and grabbing it ends the level. Sanctuary of the Scion is fantastic, definitely the best of the Egypt section of the game. It has back-to-back jaw-dropping locations with the giant Sphinx cavern and the underground lake. It introduces a terrifying new enemy type with the winged demons. It has some of the most tense and interesting platforming sequences in the entire game, and the way its vertical design takes you up and down and then wraps back in on itself is very clever. I can't say it quite gives me the same feeling of pure magic that St. Francis Folly and Palace Midas do, but it's a close third place, putting it at the tippy top of A tier. Another FMV. We emerge from the tomb and oh no, Natla and her goons are here. They steal the now complete Scion from Lara at gunpoint, but she escapes to safety by diving into some water from a height that would definitely kill her. She finds her way back to her motorcycle to chase after them as they escape on a boat. I love how epic the animators tried to make this part. We get a wheelie, some death-defying turns, this part here where she drives across a rock wall that I also annoyed my brother about, asking him over and over, "Is that really possible? Is that really possible?" And finally, this comically bad Excite Bike animation of Lara ramping off a hill that makes me laugh every time I see it. She then drives the motorcycle directly into the water for some reason and sneaks onto Natla's boat where she promptly falls asleep and somehow remains undiscovered for hours. Sometime later, she awakens to discover they've arrived at their destination, and she follows Natla and her goons into Natla's mines. The tone of this video is going to take an abrupt shift here, because I hate this level. It stands out like a sore thumb after the 12 that came before it for a number of reasons. It's so at odds with the rest of Tomb Raider's design, I have a hard time believing the same people even made it. My pet theory is that an uncredited intern at Core Design did, with little oversight from the rest of the team, and by stringing together a bunch of random nonsensical ideas they jotted down while listening to planning meetings they weren't invited to through the door. You'll see what I mean soon. We start in an underwater cavern, swimming toward a small motorboat while some lovely but completely inappropriate choral music soundtracks our approach. The first thing we have to do is swim behind this waterfall, which we have every reason to think we would not be able to do because we've been previously conditioned via stage 3 to think that the pressure from the waterfall would make this impossible. That's strike 1. Just beyond the waterfall is a switch that opens a gate that is down past some boxes and next to a minecart. Behind this gate is a switch that opens another gate that is back by where the first switch was. So we're already getting our time wasted by lazy design and the stage has barely started. Strike 2. Past gate 2 is an enjoyable enough jump if I'm being nice. Then we enter a large cave where Lara's head auto looks upward at a small building hanging from a crane, which at this point is probably something you forgot the game could even do. Either way, this little building is obviously important, even if it's unclear exactly why. In a nearby observation area are 3 slots for 3 items, so it's another one of those kinds of levels. Further into the cave are more buildings and a pushy pulley block. A passage off to the side dead ends into a closed gate next to a conveyor belt with an item on it. If your gut is telling you that that's one of the 3 thingies we need for the thingy, your gut would be correct. As we approach this other wooden gate at the end of the cave, it opens for us automatically. A mechanic that produced a chilling effect inside the ancient unknowns of mystical ruins, but feels goofy and cartoonish here, especially considering they kept the grinding stone sound effect for it, though it's clearly made out of crappy old wood. I won't say that's strike 3 yet, but what's beyond the gate definitely is. As we move forward, a boulder rolls harmlessly across the path in front of us, alerting us to danger in the area. A little further on, another boulder is triggered and blocks the path forward. A separate path takes us back outside of the auto-opening wooden gate. Huh, what's going on here? Going through the gate again, the same boulder we saw before rolls along in front of us. Weird. Moving further, the second boulder also triggers again and blocks the path forward just the same. What? Really? That's right, boulders out of absolutely nowhere can now magically reset their positions. This is such a baffling design decision, it's hard to even know where to begin with it. The entire immersive spell that Tomb Raider has cast on you up until this point instantly evaporates in service of some kind of Looney Tunes logic where you must jump through the silliest of hoops. What thematic explanation could there possibly be for this? The best I can come up with is that we're experiencing some sort of time loop due to our proximity to Atlantis, or something like that, but that's meeting the game way, way more than halfway. No, I think the real answer is that our friend, the intern, was told that he has to do something unique with boulders that weren't in the design documents for any of the previous levels, and he came up with this nonsense. The way past the trap isn't even fun or satisfying. You just have to awkwardly hop up to the ramp on the right and hope for the best. Yeah, I hate this level. I'm giving up on this whole not saving the game thing. Past the boulder, finally, is our first fuse. Oh yeah, they're fuses. Some more boulder gotchas trying to catch us sleeping, and a hole we can drop through to escape this atrocity. Back in the previous area, we move the pushy-pulley block a bit and long jump onto this building with a collapsing tile on its roof. This part's stupid too. You'd think falling through the roof of a building would land you, I don't know, inside the building, but it leads to a cave? Who designed this? Oh yeah, the intern. Buckle up because it gets worse. Up a short ramp is a lever that once pulled, get this, moves the motorboat we saw earlier about 10 feet. Hey, where do you keep your move motorboat about 10 feet lever? Our what? Your move motorboat about 10 feet lever. Oh, it's right here, built into a stone wall nowhere near the motorboat. Pure madness. This alone is worth at least 2 strikes. And now we gotta backtrack to the motorboat while stewing in the idiocy of it all. The barely moved motorboat grants us access to a brainless time waster of a block puzzle and another lever that moves an audibly engine-powered minecart about 10 feet. This is really too much. How is this level this ridiculous? It's one thing to suspend your disbelief in settings like ancient ruins and lost cities with stage layouts that communicate an abstracted mixture of arcane technologies and tens of thousands of years of natural erosion taking place, but Tomb Raider's core mechanics, of which there really aren't very many, are fundamentally incompatible with levels filled with modern-day contraptions like motorboats and minecarts. I mean, they didn't even try to make it make any sense. Ugh, and now we have to backtrack again to where the minecart is. We push a block a bit forward, climb up into an alcove I'm very lucky I noticed was here. Great, a lever. I wonder what nonsense this one will trigger. Oh, just open the wooden gate back by the conveyor belt. More backtracking, awesome. Don't do it yet though, because a little ways forward is the second fuse. Back at the conveyor belt, we pull the now accessible lever which powers on said conveyor belt and delivers to us our third fuse. Returning to the observation room, we plug them in to find that their purpose is to lower the hanging building to the ground. Nice, must be something important inside. It's our pistols? That's right, you may not have even noticed it, but our weapons are all missing, having been previously stolen by Natla's minions. Turns out we need these pistols back because back in the area where we got the second fuse, there is a dude with magnums that will blast us to smithereens, making it more or less impossible to progress unless we drop him. Here's a funny anecdote. The first time I cleared Tomb Raider was back when I was still a bit of a cheating twerp and was using a code for infinite weapons and ammo. So I bypassed almost the entire level up to this point because I didn't need the pistols. When I found out that the entire point of the fuses was to get your pistols back, I was too dim to understand why that was necessary and thought the level just didn't make any sense. Well, it doesn't, but for entirely different reasons than I was thinking in my kid brain. Okay, let's backtrack once again to where the dude is hiding. Ain't nothing personal. As an impressionable youth, I thought the way he said that was so cool. I used to run around the house all the time saying that to myself. Ain't nothing personal, ain't nothing personal. I also used to pose like the characters from Mission Impossible on the Nintendo 64. That game's kind of cool, actually. Where was I? Oh yeah, killing this dude. This arena you fight him in always scared me. I have intense memories of these lava pits surrounded by death ramps that will slide you to your doom if you're not careful. But I am careful, so he goes down easily, and now we have some magnums again. The good news is that the dumbest parts of this level are now over. The bad news is that there is still a ways to go because for some insane reason, this is one of the longest stages in the game. The intern must have really wanted to make a name for himself. The way down from the cliffside is this almost impossible to see ledge with a save point on it. The way down from that is to do that cool let go of ledge, grab other ledge trick we learned back in the city of Khamoon. Then we shimmy around the edges of the lava river, ignoring these poor textures here that make it look like Lara is getting her breasts melted, and make our way to a series of pillars further down the lava flow. I will say, this next part is pretty cool. I think the intern consulted with someone on this one. Many of the jumps in this next series give us an option between two pillars to target, and from the front they look exactly the same. So which one should I take? The trick is to use the look mechanic to change your viewing angle downward, which gives you a better view of the pillar's top surfaces, which should make it pretty clear which one is safe and which one is death. Very cool. Easily the most clever idea of the level so far. Past another lava trap are some TNT crates, and we're back to the nonsense, unfortunately. We have to move this one TNT crate, none of the others are movable, as far as it can go, use it to hop up into this passageway, use some careful air turning to get across this admittedly frightening lava pit, and keep climbing up ramps all the way to a switch that, once pulled, somehow detonates that one TNT crate we moved. This process is so nonsensical and abstracted, I legitimately didn't understand it the first time I played this level. I got back to where the TNT crate was and saw that the way forward was unblocked and thought the lever was just opened the cave somehow. The explosion barely makes a sound, and you know my child brain didn't put two and two together back in the day. Through the blown up passage are some incredibly well-preserved ruins and a douche on a skateboard trying to murder us with Uzis while incorrectly referencing Taxi Driver. He dies like a wimp, and we steal his Uzis. Nice, these things rule. Being careful not to run into any lava pits, we proceed to the next area and do some more boulder dodging. We climb up, and eventually make it into a strange golden room of some sort. We move some blocks around to reveal a lever that opens a door. Through the door is another block we gotta move, and another lever that opens another door, and that door leads to an exit. This whole sequence feels pretty time-wasty if you ask me, but that's par for the course on this atrocious level. Outside is Natla's final goon, whom we promptly pump full of Uzi rounds, and I really mean that. We put 218 rounds into this dude. Think about what somebody's body would look like after that. Actually, don't. It's horrific. Instead, think about how we have a shotgun again. That's not horrific, that's helpful. Beyond the desecrated corpse of the nameless unfortunate is one side of what seems to be a large golden pyramid. Could it be the entrance to Atlantis? It's locked, so we gotta do a little more exploring. Some parts of the pyramid are level enough to walk on, so we hop across those to access another lever, which opens up one of the gold buildings back by where we entered this area from. Inside it is a key, which opens the door to Atlantis and ends the misery. By now, it should be pretty obvious that I think Natla's Mines is the worst level in the game. I would be astonished if I met anyone that thought otherwise. I'm skipping C and going all the way down to D. Sure, it's not that torturous to play if you don't think about how stupidly designed it is, but personally I can't not think about how stupidly designed it is. No one hired our intern pal based off the strength of his work here, I guarantee it. Furthermore, my dislike for this level actually extends outside of the realm of just the first Tomb Raider. I kinda blame it for the rest of the Tomb Raider series' dumb tendency to de-emphasize the tomb raiding and instead set levels in modern-day Venice and military camps and crap like that. The classic level design formula and staple mechanics of Tomb Raider are woefully ill-equipped to capture the atmosphere and architecture of such locations, and every other entry on the PlayStation suffers for it. Except for maybe The Last Revelation. I remember that one being pretty tomby, but I also remember it botching the swimming controls. It's been forever, so I can't say for sure. But to my point, I think if Tomb Raider 1's designers had admitted to themselves that Natla's Mines did not work and scrapped it for something more in line with the rest of the game, the creators of the following entries may have made better decisions without its influence. Just a theory. Moving on. In an ominous cutscene, we see Natla place the completed Scion into a sketchy contraption, which comes to life along with the rest of Atlantis as the camera pans over to a large egg of some kind. A jet of blue energy shoots heavenward out of the top of the city, and Atlantis is now free from its mountainous prison. All of this seems bad. As a side note, I don't think this one pyramid is supposed to be all of Atlantis, but this stage is literally called Atlantis, so it's confusing. I'm gonna keep calling it Atlantis. Inside, we move forward as the lights flicker on and see that Atlantis' internals are fleshy and gross and filled with more eggs, one of which immediately hatches and we get attacked by well, I suppose I should stop calling them mummies, and Atlantean sounds stupid. a monster. A monster, but with our newfound Uzi power, it explodes pretty easily. By the way, there is a surplus of Uzi ammunition strewn about the lost city of Atlantis for some reason, so you really don't have to worry about running out. Just mow down every freak you see. Atlantis is structured, somewhat disappointingly, as a linear series of discrete challenge rooms. This first one is pretty basic, a series of switches that has you running hither and thither as monster eggs hatch. Afterward, we step out onto a teeny tiny ledge over a lava pit and get assaulted by one of those accursed winged demons, but thankfully he gets stuck in this hallway with me, so it goes down easy. These nuisances are all over this stage though, and we will not always be so lucky. Across the lava pit, the next room consists of a long jump over an egg and a ledge off to the side. The trick here is to jump over to the ledge, then do the old release and grab to access a hidden pathway with a lever that opens the exit. Of course, the egg hatches while you're mid-jump for maximum pants wetting, so it's good we already opened the door to give ourselves a safe area to move into. Just thinking about being stranded on this narrow 3-tile platform with one of those creatures swooping around makes me nervous. The next room is a pyramid-side platforming sequence similar to the end of the previous level, except now with spikes and boulders. This is an almost guaranteed death on first play, if you ask me. That boulder comes out of nowhere. Make sure to hop into the water and pull the lever first, or else when you make it to the exit, you'll find yourself staring at a locked door. Room 4 is kinda neat. We climb onto a strange platform in the center, pull a lever which opens up a new path across the previous room, follow that to another lever which releases some lava that pushes the strange platform we were on over to the side, revealing a new path. Admittedly, it's more aesthetically neat than mechanically neat, but hey, neat's neat. I especially like this little touch, how the platform has blocked the lava flow from covering the entire floor. They really put some effort into faking these environmental state transitions. Up the following ramp, over a spike pit, and through a water chamber, we come to a gate of death that only activates after we pass it. There's something insidious about that. Let's go back. In case... Yep, you can hear its wings flapping. It's one of our friends. Now, this is a dangerous situation. The only spot we can draw bead on the enemy from is this little platform past the gate of death, but as soon as we do that, the trap activates. Maybe we can go out, lure it down, and hop back and take it out that way. Whoops, I had it, but I went back too far. It seemed to work though. Let's try again. Oh man, I barely cleared the gate. Here we go. Whew. Walking out onto the ledge again and looking around, we see that we've circled back around to the same lava pit room we fought the first winged demon in, only now we're higher up. This is the key structural gimmick of the level, and we'll be returning here a few more times as we climb further and further up into Atlantis. The next area is a simple switches and combat sequence, much like the first part of the stage. There are 3 gates and 5 switches. 3 of the switches open gates, and the other 2 hatch eggs. All we can do is guess. Now what? Oh great, another stupid boulder resetting thing. I suppose this lends credence to my dumb Atlantis time loop theory, but I don't want it to. At least this one has a more or less 0% chance of killing you. Just push the block in front of the boulder, and then the next time it loops, it doesn't block the entrance. Wow, cool. Oh, we're already back to the central lava column. Our previous 2 visits summoned an enemy, so I'm pretty sure this one will too. Yep, there he is. No gate of death, thankfully. Boy, we're getting pretty high up now, eh? Still can't see the top, though. The following room is a slide jump over a spike pit where you must use visual clues to ascertain that you need to target the red areas to make it safely. And the next is a waking nightmare. We have a large chamber with a dangerously slippery bridge in the middle and enemies spawning in at unpredictable moments. The bridge is not traversable on its own, so we have to make these pinpoint accurate jumps to circumvent it while listening to Atlantean demon groans all around us. Just listen to this, man. How am I supposed to hop around calmly while listening to that? Eventually, I just go for it, hop back to a flatter portion of the bridge, and spot the noisemakers around the corner. They must die. We make our way to the other side of the room, pull a lever, pull a block, go through a door that leads us through a gate of death and back into the same fricking room, where finally we can leap to safety where those slain monsters' groans are now but a distant memory. A short climb up, and here we are in the central hub again. Are we going 4 for 4 for winged demon spawns? Yes, we are. These get more and more stressful the further up we get. The actual danger is no greater than it was at the very beginning. Lava is an insta-kill after all, but it certainly feels more dangerous, that's for sure. Tomb Raider works on an aesthetic level very few early 3D games do. Next is a good old-fashioned platforming sequence. Pull a switch, the platforms rearrange so you can advance, rinse and repeat. The next hallway has some enemies in it that shoot practically unavoidable needle projectiles at you, and past them is, let's call it Funny Lever 3. This time, it's serious. Looking at this scenario, it seems obvious what you must do. Pull the lever, then escape through the door before the lava gets you. But no! Once pulled, the lava begins to move, but the door stays closed, clearly intended to cause you to panic. Thinking you're doomed, you rush back to the closed-off entrance, then the lava suddenly stops. What? Yeah, that whole thing was a fake-out. What you actually need to do is climb up this shaft here to advance. These devs are having a laugh, man. We're almost to the top of the lava hub now, and we can see the ceiling, which means we can no longer see the bottom. Yikes. I don't even like looking down at this part. It triggers a sort of acrophobic sensation in me that is deeply unpleasant. It makes me, well, not to be crass, but I feel it in my balls. I really do. To an extent no other game I've ever played has come close to. And it happens every single time I play through this part. That alone makes Tomb Raider an all-time masterpiece if you ask me. And while I understand that induction of testicular sensation may be a strange criteria for critical appraisal, hey, balls don't lie. At least, mine don't. Progressing onward is a rather silly-looking trap combining darts, a gate of death, and a boulder. It's not particularly dangerous, and I think mostly communicates a clumsy attempt by the designers to start combining some of the previous trap concepts into new formations to create an impression of freshness. It doesn't really work, but I respect the effort. Up the boulder ramp is a needlessly large room with a couple booby-trapped levers, one sending you down into some spikes and the other into some lava. They are both survivable, and you gotta choose one of them, so pick your poison. Whichever way you go, you're led to a lever that opens the path forward. Some more combat later, I die, don't worry, I've been saving this level, and some more combat later, we come to the strangest enemy encounter in the game, and also the most creative. The first thing you might notice is that as you fire at it, you also take damage. The second is that it's not just your attacks. This thing mirrors your every move. The last is that the entire arena you're in is a perfect mirror image of itself. The way you beat this thing is so cool, I almost don't want to spoil it. In a nutshell, what you must do is platform your way to the top of one corner in the room where there is a lever that opens up a lava pit behind you. Then you navigate to the opposite corner and stand on the tile that corresponds to where the lava pit is. Because this Atlantean freak is mimicking you exactly, this will send it plummeting down into the pit and to a fiery death. I feel a little bad killing it because I think it's the only non-hostile living creature you come across in the entire game, but hey, it's probably some sort of soulless demon like the rest of them, right? Past it is the final room of the stage, and it's a timed switch puzzle. It's slightly tricky until you figure out the correct order to flip the two switches, door, then bridge, lest you fancy yourself a lava swim, but really nothing very difficult for this late in the game. And there it is, the Scion. We've made it to the top. Grabbing it triggers an FMV flashback where we see that Natla was in some sort of power struggle with the other Atlantean rulers, which is why she was sealed away. I love the way she says, "Wasters." Is that how all Atlanteans talked? Back in the present day, Natla explains to Lara that this whole thing was over some biological warfare type deal where she wants to genetically construct a new race of warriors, which I can't say is a very interesting revelation. Oh well, stories rarely matter much in games anyways. It certainly wasn't high on their priority list here. Anywho, Lara gestures to shoot the Scion and screw everything up, which Natla dislikes so much, she dives into the bottom of the giant vertical shaft we're inside, knocking Lara safely to the platform below where a big boss fight egg is about to hatch, and that's where the level ends. Atlantis is not one of my favorite levels, but it does have a lot of creative ideas and some of the most frightening and dangerous sequences the game has to offer. Its linearity and combat focus are a bit of a disappointment as neither element plays to the strengths of Tomb Raider's design, but it's still fun to play. I think about on par with City of Khamoon, but slightly better, so B tier. Here we go, the final level, the Great Pyramid. If you're expecting an epic showdown that finally shows off what Tomb Raider's combat is capable of, you will be disappointed. The rotund meat sack that plops down out of Natla's special king egg is practically harmless. It doesn't even have legs. She was going to try and rule the world with these? It's so slow. Just run around it turning every so often to get some shots in. You're more likely to accidentally run off the edge of the arena than have this thing kill you. It impressed me more as a child though. I remember arguing with my brother that this was the final boss of the game, even though it's at the beginning of the level and there was another boss later, because this one was bigger and I liked it more. Some primo kid logic that. I don't think I knew what the word final meant. I think core design were running out of development time at this point because this final stage is short and surprisingly dull. Our first task after the boss is to slowly push some blocks around so we can hop up into a passageway. Then it might seem like adding a collapsing tile in front of the Gate of Death would make it more challenging to time passing through it, but I don't know, not really. Following that is another simple block puzzle, then some easy hopping back and forth over this lava stream, then a couple bog standard boulder traps we've seen a dozen times before. We eventually climb back up to the platform containing the Scion contraption, which we blast to pieces, which seems to cause some sort of self-destruction sequence to activate because the whole pyramid starts going nuts. Some of the lava has cooled off in the previous room, which lets us drop down into it and access a new area. This part looks more intense than it actually is. Just shimmy across and eat some darts, who cares? We finally come to a trap that seems somewhat intimidating, a jump past a pendulum that we have to do just right so we don't get spiked. Ugh, that's cheap. There we go. I opted here for a running jump outside of the pendulum's trajectory and landed on a safe tile in the center. Oh yeah, I never mentioned this, but if you walk slowly through spikes, you can actually move through them without taking any damage. Running through doesn't kill you either, but does slowly bleed some of your health away. Pretty cool. I'll give this next trap some credit. It's pretty scary. We gotta jump diagonally over some spikes and then diagonally again before the ground crumbles away, leading to more spikes. Then it's a double ramp jump that's a lot easier than it looks. I feel like this one here is mostly luck. Run toward the boulder, over the collapsing floor, turn into the pendulum, and hope for the best. Oh wow, I did it. First try. More boulders. I love that the developers are still doing this thing where they use items as bait to stall the player and get them killed. I wonder how often this works this late in the game when the player really should know better. Another boulder pendulum combo trap that seems like luck to me. Take a guess when you should start sliding and go for it. Then we have a lava trap with more bait we're not gonna fall for. Now another boulder one. Man, this level is just trap after trap, but there are enough save points that it's really not all that challenging. The trick to this one is to take it slow. Run forward just enough that the top boulder misses you, then jump and hang to let the second one roll over you. Nothing too new going on. Ooh, Palace Midas flashback. These flames are equally easy to avoid, just stay off to the side. The following part looks scary, but it's trivial in practice. Any jump to the center tile will send you safely down into the water below. Just make sure to heal to full health beforehand so the pendulum doesn't slice you to death when you pull yourself up. We are very, very close to the end now and have acquired an extreme amount of Uzi ammunition, so we're prepared for anything. Oh, it's Natla, and she can fly. And she goes down in about 15 seconds. Before proceeding, just wait a while and she'll resuscitate, after which she goes down in about another 15 seconds. I feel like the implementation of this encounter was somewhat botched. Surely it would have been better if you encounter her on foot first, and then she resurrected with wings later while you're doing the final platforming sequence to add some challenge to it. As it is now, you drop her twice, easy peasy, then platform an awkward piece all the way to the end of the game. It's strange. The shaking and rumbling of the environment does add some tension and flavor to the sequence, which is nice, but it still feels a bit hollow. Mechanically, it's all the same moves you've input 1,000 times at this point. One very important note, however, is that it is mandatory to climb the final ledge with a stylish handstand. It is an unspoken rule of the original Tomb Raider, and if you don't do it, you will be shunned. Only after doing the handstand are you allowed to proceed forward, slide down the final ramp, and clear the game. Let's be real. The Great Pyramid is a pretty lackluster closer. Too linear, boring boss fights, overly designed traps that really aren't that interesting or suspenseful, weirdly paced block puzzles, etc. It's not offensively bad like Natla's Mines, but it's certainly not Tomb Raider at its best, and it's a bit of a bummer closer. I can't go higher than C tier on it. I really can't. And here's our final tier list. Not bad. Got a nice bell curve type spread going on, which I hear is what you want. I feel good about it. I think it reflects my thoughts and opinions and childhood, and sure, why not, my soul accurately. Cool. Alrighty, let's see how Tomb Raider's story wraps up. Okay, the pyramid explodes, and Lara drives away in the boat. What did you expect? The end. I know my commentary got increasingly negative as the game went on, but that doesn't mean I consider Tomb Raider anything less than a total masterpiece. I reject this mode of appraisal a lot of critics have, where they seem to think of masterpieces as games that are the least flawed or most polished. It's overly prescriptive and borderline useless to approach art criticism that way. Masterpieces are the works that communicate something deeply special and irreplaceable that call people back to them time and time again, even if they don't understand why. Tomb Raider is loaded top to bottom with flaws. Glitches, camera issues, wonky combat, inconsistent level design, garbage story, you name it. But what does any of that add up to if every couple of years I get a yearning, not just a desire, a full-on yearning to experience it again? Precisely nothing. And it's not just nostalgia. I'm not all that nostalgic of a dude, truth be told. Final Fantasy VII was my favorite video game from ages 9 to like 25, and that game has nowhere close to the hold on me Tomb Raider has. I just love Tomb Raider, man. I love playing it. To this day, it's one of the most suspenseful and immersive 3D platforming games ever made. It absolutely demolishes frictionless junk like the platforming sequences in the Uncharted series or in most modern action-adventure games. There should be government agencies studying it to isolate and extract the exact source of its magic so we can start understanding for certain how to make a million more games in its spirit. In the meantime, I hope this video will suffice as a temporary insight into its greatness. Nice. Well, that's Tomb Raider. Let's check out the credits. I bet it took like 1,000 people to make something this advanced for its time. Probably had like a dozen people just on the graphics engine alone. That's it? Created by 6 people? 6 people? Okay, to be fair, I looked it up and it seems like around 10 other people also worked on the game in some capacity. For example, Nathan McCree with the music, as we know, but still, a core design team of only 6 people is unbelievable. Man, oh man. What are AAA studios even doing these days? Tomb Raider was one of the most successful video games of the 90s, selling over 7 million copies on the PlayStation alone. So the story behind its development and release is not exactly a mystery. Still, let's talk a little about the games that influenced it, and in turn the way Tomb Raider itself pushed the medium forward as one of the first fully 3D action adventures. Tomb Raider's origin can be traced back to a single man, Toby Gard, who in 1994 submitted a proposal for a 3D action-adventure game about exploring ancient tombs to the company's head as a possible project for Sony's upcoming PlayStation. Everyone loved it, and the project was greenlit. Design inspirations were eclectic. Ultima Underworld for the adventuring vibe, Virtua Fighter for the character models, the spirited female protagonist of Tank Girl, the scenario of Indiana Jones, the dual firearms wielding of Hard Boiled, and, most importantly, the mechanics of Prince of Persia. In fact, Tomb Raider pulls so much from Prince of Persia, I'd go as far as to say that it's basically a 3D adaptation of its system. A shocking amount of Tomb Raider's design concepts are lifted directly from it. Spike traps, collapsing floor tiles, timed gates, pressure plates, ledge hanging, rigid jump distances requiring specific input sequences, a slower movement option that lets you line up accurately with the edge of platforms without falling over, even the frickin' gates of death. It's a bit shameless, really, but I get it. If you are doing something completely new in one fashion, like Tomb Raider was with its attempt to bring true action and adventure to 3D platforming, it helps to have a strong frame of reference to measure your success by. The end result is conceptually quite close to a 3D cinematic platformer. Maybe the only one ever made, as nothing after Tomb Raider adhered quite as strictly to the genre's principles as it did. As far as I could find, Jordan Mechner, the creator of Prince of Persia and thus the cinematic platformer, has never publicly commented on any of this, but I'd be curious to know his thoughts around it. Toby Gard was obviously not a team of one, however, and according to an article released in 2019 by Eurogamer, one of the unsung heroes of Tomb Raider's development was programmer Gavin Rummery, who developed the room editor and grid system that all of Tomb Raider's levels were created with, without which I imagine the game may have never seen the light of day. Additionally of note, an uncredited writer by the name of Vicky Arnold wrote the game's script, but she worked on it independently from the core team of 6, which probably has something to do with how awkward and tacked on it feels. Gard himself was responsible for Lara's design and animations, a role that he reportedly obsessed over throughout his work on the title, but exactly what his intentions were with the character remains somewhat vague. He clearly chose to make her curvaceous to the point of absurdity, but also used terms like unattainable, austere, and dangerous when describing her. Even more, he famously grew furious when Eidos's marketing team took over the reins of her public representation and began further emphasizing her sex appeal for marketing purposes. You know what I think? I think he was in love with her. That is my genuine belief. I think Toby Gard was a sensitive 23-year-old nerd who used Tomb Raider's development as an opportunity to bring to life the girl of his dreams, and he fell in love, only to see that love get almost instantly mangled by the heartless hands of advertisement executives. That's the sense I get anyway. Poor guy. As for the game's release, it was originally meant to come out on the PlayStation, Sega Saturn, and DOS simultaneously, but late development business decisions resulted in a 6-week timed exclusivity of the Saturn version in Europe. As a result, the Saturn version had to ship a month and a half earlier than planned, which is generally why it's considered the least polished version of the game. I haven't played enough of the Saturn version myself to notice much of a difference between them, other than its darker lighting and less consistent frame rate. And yes, Saturn defenders out there, I know your version has a fancy water ripple effect in it that was removed on the PlayStation. I've seen it. It is cool. Anyway, in North America, both versions released on the same day, and we all know how that went. It frickin' exploded, man. Especially on the PlayStation, where it moved millions of copies over the 1996 holiday season. If you were sentient around that time, I'm sure you remember seeing Lara Croft's face everywhere. I certainly do. As such, I don't really feel a need to go over any of the glowing reviews Tomb Raider received when it debuted. I assured you there were many, and the reasons for them should be quite obvious. I couldn't even find any comically negative reviews for it like I dug up for previous PlayStation titles, but I did read one I found interesting, less so for its critical appraisal of the game than its insight into what gaming journalism was like back in the mid-90s, but still, it'll do. So, for today's review, let's take a look at Hugh Sturbakov's review of Tomb Raider on the PlayStation as published in 1996 by GameSpot.com. This one's not going to be, I don't think this one's going to make me, tickle me quite as much as some of the previous ones, but I still found it somewhat interesting. Let's jump in. Okay, Tomb Raider review. Tomb Raider is simply a smart game bursting with great touches. That's the title of the review. And it starts, even positive reviews back then were like so combative. Everything was always pitting everything. It's the console war era, man. Everything was always pitting everything against each other. Like the first review of this game, for no reason, is move over Resident Evil. Like, what? They have nothing to do with each other. I know, they're both action adventure games, I guess. The new benchmark for 32-bit 3D gaming is here. Tomb Raider combines slick graphics with a fantastically agile character and an excellent story, I don't know about that, offering proof that the 32-bitters can hold their own with the Nintendo 64 and its plumber juggernaut. It's weird that like they're combative towards Resident Evil, which is a PlayStation, it's on the same platform, and then in the same paragraph they start saying that Tomb Raider is like as good as anything on the Nintendo 64. I think they got like editorial direction to always pit stuff against each other back then. That's the sense I get anyway. The most striking thing about Tomb Raider is its 3D environment. Players will explore immense caverns, often bigger than the worlds in Mario 64, with fewer polygons, but polygons don't guarantee greatness. You can tell that early 3D, like polygon counts, were like at the forefront of people's minds back then. And zero delay after the initial load. That actually is a good point. No mid-game or no mid-level loading screens. No mid-level loading screens in Tomb Raider is very impressive, I think, for a CD-based game in 1996. While Tomb Raider may not be as clean as the 64-bit Mario, it is very impressive nonetheless. What's more, it has a compelling storyline and a great Indiana Jones-style heroine, resulting in a much more interesting atmosphere. Fans of Resident Evil Mortal Kombat and their gothic ilk may actually prefer Tomb Raider to Super Mario 64. That's very strange. Tomb Raider's not gothic. Resident Evil's not gothic. Whatever. I guess like, I don't know. Horror-y, darker. Just say darker. Just say more like adult, just darker. Just say darker. Anyways. As Lara, players walk, run, jump, dive, swim, roll, hurdle. Oh yeah, I guess we're talking about like vaulting, yeah. Hurdle, shoot, and dodge their way through temples of doom, unveiling a mystery that seems to lead to a sunken continent. Gameplay favors puzzle solving and skillful maneuvering, making the right jump, finding the right key, searching every corner of a cave, overshooting and conflict, making Tomb Raider is more like the opening sequence of Raiders of the Lost Ark than its finale. Making Tomb Raider more like the opening sequence of Raiders of the Lost Ark than its finale. There we go. I should have been the editor of this. Nonetheless, it's completely mesmerizing. Tomb Raider instantly sucks players in with Lara's deft movements and death-defying jumps. Be sure to bring along a hint book or FAQ. It's a very random place to put that sentence. In addition, by restricting forward movement to 12 o'clock on the gamepad, rather than allowing control to shift with the camera angle, the game lends its protagonist the capacity to actually walk in a straight line. I think that's the most insightful, I think that is the most insightful point. It goes back to how tank controls were actually valuable back then. They were a way to make 3D controls more intuitive. But now they're considered, well, before the analog stick, but now they're considered like a big, they're beyond the pale, unforgivable. Of course, Tomb Raider is not perfect. The animals seem to be on a polygon fast. They need them polygons back then, man. They were all about them polygons in 1996. Also, some of the problematic camera angles familiar to players of Super Mario 64 occur here as well. Yeah, both games have big camera issues for sure. They have a smaller impact on gameplay here, however, because of the game's emphasis on puzzles over action. I would agree with that. Tomb Raider is simply a smart game, bursting with great touches. In the training level, Lara takes players through her house into her gym and tutors them on the skills they'll need to stay alive. I skipped the entire tutorial for this video because it's long enough, let's be real. Fortunately, the complicated maneuvers can be learned in moments. I agree, they're not hard controls. This is the first 32-bit game to compete with Nintendo 64's polygon arsenal, and it handles itself very well. If there are more PlayStation and Saturn releases like this one, Lara and her followers might very well be uncovering Nintendo 64s along with the other artifacts in Tomb Raider 5. That's right. They have to praise Tomb Raider by saying it's going to render the Nintendo 64 obsolete. So, I give that review an 8 out of 10 for a funny insight into how, even when they were trying to write positive reviews back then, they couldn't help themselves. They had to snarkily attack something, even if they couldn't be snarky towards the game they were reviewing, they had to redirect it to some other, usually to some other good game that for no reason that they're insulting. I don't know. That's how it was back then. All right. That's it. The initial Tomb Raider craze lasted for quite a while after the original released. Game after game after game, fueled in part by a lucrative console exclusivity deal Eidos worked out with Sony. But that's far from all. Movies, magazine appearances, comic books, theme park rides, you name it. I don't particularly feel like getting into all of that, as this is almost certainly the only video I'll ever make on the series. As I alluded to earlier, I'm not a big fan of the later PlayStation games, and am more or less indifferent to the releases after that. Even Tomb Raider Anniversary, the much hyped, including by myself at the time, remake of the original, I think is a vastly inferior title that I'm in no rush to replay. If I ever do another Tomb Raider video, I honestly think the top contender is the 2000 Game Boy Color entry, simply titled Tomb Raider. It's up there with Metal Gear Ghost Babel in terms of GBC games that are a lot more successful at adapting their console counterparts' mechanics to the 2D handheld space than you would think. A big part of the problem with later Tomb Raider games is that Toby Gard left Core Design shortly after the release of the first game, and didn't return to work on the series until 10 years later with Tomb Raider Legend. And even then, he was far from the project lead, so the portions of the first Tomb Raider's artistic identity that were birthed from Gard's soul are completely absent for the rest of its PlayStation run, despite their continuing to ship millions upon millions of copies. Well, I say that, but if you look at Toby Gard's track record after Tomb Raider, it's really not very impressive either. He didn't put out another game until 8 years later, with 2004's Xbox exclusive Galleon, which honestly might be the strangest game on the platform. Seriously, it's hard to even tell what's happening half the time. It might be the most over-designed action-adventure game I've ever played. It's more of an animation showcase than anything else, which I suppose makes sense given Guard's background, but it is so awkward to play. I don't even hate it. It might even make a good video if I ever get around to it, but boy, is it weird. So, Galleon was not a huge success, and neither was anything he did that came after. Ninja Gaiden's spin-off, Yaiba, got critically slaughtered. The PSVR exclusive horror game Here They Lie came and went with very little fanfare, and not many people seem to know that his roguelike Lovecraft homage Dream Cycle even exists. I haven't played any of these games myself, so I don't know if any of them are deserving of more recognition than they've heretofore gotten, but my gut is telling me, no, not really. Still though, Guard's Tomb Raider had a vast influence on the burgeoning 3D action-adventure genre, and games that drew heavily from it were everywhere in the late 90s. Nightmare Creatures on the PlayStation is one that comes to mind, as well as Eidos's own Death Trap Dungeon. There's Shadow Man, which is considered by many these days a cult classic of its own. In a tidy bit of circular inspiration, Prince of Persia 3D and Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine were both clearly influenced by Tomb Raider. And even in the purely PC space, you had titles like Draken, Order of the Flame, and The Elder Scrolls Adventures, Redguard. Returning to the Tomb Raider series itself, its last proper entry was 2018's Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So it's still going, well, maybe not strong, but it's still going in some capacity to this day. AAA development is such a mess right now though, so who knows what will be done with it in the future. One cool thing that has come out recently, however, are lovely HD remasters of the first 6 entries in the series, everything up through the PS2's rather pathetic Angel of Darkness. I personally only care much about the first one, truth be told, but it's awesome that the original series has received such deluxe treatment in recent years. Aspyr Media, the developer and publisher of the project, seemed to have gone to great lengths to make sure the remasters were done properly as well. They even brought on Tomb Raider Ultra fan Timur Gagiv, developer of the Open Lara game engine based on the original games, as its technical director. And there are options to use the original graphics and control scheme for purists like me. Wow, that's refreshing compared to what Rockstar did to their PS2 GTA trilogy, isn't it? Personally, I don't have too much more to say about my relationship with Tomb Raider, except that for whatever reason, it seems to be the game from my childhood that I most get a hankering to play when I'm feeling nice and loose and looking to wind down after a night of drinking with the boys. It's definitely not my favorite game of all time. I'm not even sure it would make my top 20, but something about it has a permanent stranglehold on a subconscious part of my brain that I do not fully understand. Many a time have I drunkenly foisted it upon a friend and demanded they play through at least a couple levels so I could coach them on the basics. It is a game that I feel the need to share with as many people as possible, like I gotta do my part to have its slower paced, tension-focused, hyper-deliberate action-adventure design philosophy sink into humanity's collective unconscious or something. I suppose that's why I'm covering it so early on in the life of Electronic Journeys. But allow me one more anecdote. One of my favorite memories of Tomb Raider is not from when I was a child, but from my mid-20s, when I was playing it in my first New York City apartment, while listening to my roommate have prolonged and, let's say, unquiet intercourse through our paper-thin walls. My bedroom in this apartment was the living room couch, so there was nowhere for me to retreat to. What I find funniest about this is that the game I chose to play at that time was Tomb Raider, which has got to be in the running for one of the quietest games ever made. Headphones did little to spare me. Such is the stranglehold the game has over me. When I want to play Tomb Raider, I gotta play it. Okay, that's enough. Let's see how it does in our GOAT Gauntlet. It's number one. It's number one by a lot. If it wasn't already clear by now, Tomb Raider is one of my all-time favorite games. So yeah, I could see it staying at the top for quite some time, actually. It'll be interesting to see what eventually dethrones it. So, if you have even the slightest tolerance for quote-unquote dated games, Tomb Raider is a must-play. I genuinely would put it on the same tier of early 3D essentiality as Super Mario 64. Yes, Mario has analog and fluidity and all that, but Tomb Raider has atmosphere and immersion and all the other stuff I talked about in this video. If you're a tank control baby, you shouldn't be, by the way. This whole every game needs to control the same way thing is expressive poison, but I know there are plenty of you out there. I know it. But anyways, if you absolutely can't stand tank controls, the remasters have a modern option. But again, I strongly recommend you just take the 15 or so minutes it requires to get used to the original control scheme. You will legitimately be a better person for it. Learning to do new things is good. You had to learn how to play every game you now currently love at some point, right? So just do that here. I implore you. No, actually I demand it. It's homework. You are not allowed to watch the next episode of Electronic Journeys until you clear Tomb Raider. I'll find a way to enforce this. Just wait. Go play it. Go buy the remastered trilogy right now on your platform of choice and play it. Tomb Raider is in the Electronic Journeys video game canon because of course it is. There's no other option. I'm tired of explaining myself. This video is way too long. So long, everyone. We'll meet again soon on another journey.
No.
Oh boy, this one took a while to get out. Sorry about that. Thanks for watching to the end though, if you made it here, I really appreciate it. I mentioned in the outro of episode 3 that I had started a new job, and as expected, it's taking up a lot of my time. My goal before this episode dropped was to pass 100 subs, and I'm happy to say that we did indeed make it happen. I'm very grateful. Next milestone is 500, so we can join the YouTube Partner Program, and the dream of this being my full-time gig becomes one step closer to reality. The good news is you guys can help today. All you gotta do is sub, and like, and comment, and share. You get it. Weekly vids are going to keep happening to bridge the gaps between the proper episodes, so hopefully you guys are enjoying those as well. Also, I have a bunch of apps in the App Store and a poetry book if you feel like checking out some of my other projects. Links are in the description. That's about it for this one. Thanks again, everyone. The next one will be coming much sooner than this one did, I guarantee it.